All right, good evening and welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time out of your night to join us for tonight's public hearing. This is a public hearing for an Eagle Industrial NPDES permit application received by Eagle for Copperwood Resources Incorporated for Copperwood Mine. My name is Ryan Blazek. I'm with Eagle's Environmental Support Division. I'm just going to be helping to moderate the public hearing tonight, and I'm also the hearings officer. But as moderator, just have a couple things to go through before we get too far into tonight. First off, I just want to go through what our agenda is going to look like. We're going to start off with an introduction. That's what we're doing right now. And then the hearing is kind of broken up into two parts. We're going to start off with an information session. So that'll be Eagle providing a presentation with information on the proposed reissuance and application. Then we're going to have a short question and answer session where you'll have an opportunity to ask a question related to this application and permit. And then at around 7:45, we're going to move on to the second part, which is going to be the hearing part. That's where you'll have an opportunity to make a statement for the record on this application and permit. We're also going to cover ways to submit an official comment, cover also who to contact in case you have additional questions. And we'll explain how we're going to take your comments a little bit later on, along with how we're going to do the question and answer session. All right, in case you haven't joined us for one of these hearings before, all lines are going to be muted during the hearing, so you'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. You will be able to be unmuted to give your statement and to ask your question out loud if you choose to do so. You can also submit questions using the Q&A box in your Zoom toolbar. You can just type those questions in and send them to us, and we'll answer as many of those as we can during the informational session, question and answer period that we're going to go through here in a little bit. If we have any phone-in callers, you will have an opportunity to make a statement and ask a question as well, and we'll explain how we're going to do that later. And then also, just so you're aware of, we are recording this hearing. This hearing will be posted on our YouTube channel in the next day or two. All right, with that, I would like to invite our other Eagle staff, our Water Resources Division staff who are on the line to turn their cameras on and introduce themselves. And I'll start. Again, my name is Ryan Blazek. I'll be acting as hearings officer and moderator, and I'm a Water Resources Outreach Specialist with Eagle. All right. Go ahead, Tarek.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tarek Buckmaster, and I supervise the Industrial Permits Unit and Permits Section and Water Resources Division.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Renee Pyack, and I'm a permit writer in the Industrial Unit, and I am also the permit writer for this permit.
Hello, my name is Andrea Hernandez. I'm the Permit Section Manager for the Water Resources Division.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Glenn Schmidt with Water Resources Division. I'm an aquatic biologist who developed the water quality-based effluent limits for the draft permit.
Hello, Jay Parent, WRD UP District Office District Supervisor, and we will be running compliance with the permit, or we have been. We're in compliance with the permit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for that introduction and for being part of our panel today. We're going to move on to the information session, and Renee, I believe, has a presentation for us, and I have your slides. So if you want to just let me know when to change slides for you, we can begin.
That sounds great, Ryan. Thanks. Good evening again, everyone. My name is Renee Pyack, and I'm a permit writer in the Industrial Permits Unit within the Water Resources Division. Today, I will be presenting on the proposed reissuance of the NPDES permit for the Copperwood Mine. Next slide. Before jumping into the permit, I wanted to provide some background information about the Industrial Permits Unit and where we fit in Michigan's government. We are part of the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, or EGLE. EGLE's job is to protect Michigan's environment and public health by managing air, water, land, and energy resources. Next slide. Within EGLE, we are part of the Water Resources Division. Water Resources Division is tasked with ensuring Michigan's waters are safe and clean for what we call protected uses, which include things like drinking, recreation, fishing, and a healthy overall aquatic ecosystem. Water Resources Division has a variety of programs such as wetland and floodplain regulation, critical dune protection, and permit issuance, which we will discuss today. Next slide. Within Water Resources Division, we are part of the permit section, which is responsible for issuance of all wastewater discharge permits to both surface and groundwaters of the state of Michigan. The Industrial Permits Unit issues National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES permits for wastewater discharges from industrial and commercial facilities to surface waters of the state under the Federal Clean Water Act and state law. This includes a wide range of facilities such as steam electric power plants, sand and gravel mines, manufacturing facilities, contaminated groundwater treatment systems, and construction projects, just to name a few. Next slide. We issue permits under the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, or NREPA 451. Part 31, Water Resources Protection of NREPA, regulates all wastewater discharges in the state of Michigan. Within Part 31, there are a number of rules that have been promulgated. In particular, we operate under the Part 21 Wastewater Discharge Permit Rules that set out standards for NPDES permits, and the Part 4 Water Quality Standards and Part 8 Water Quality-Based Effluent Development for Toxic Substances rules, all of which allow Water Resources Division to implement the law. That is, they provide the specifics for how we do it. Next slide. The NPDES permit is the only permit we will be discussing today. We would like to remind the people that an industrial surface water discharge permit does not eliminate the need to obtain any other permits or approvals from other units of government. This facility has a mining permit through the Geological Resources Management Division and an air permit through the Air Quality Division. But today, we are only discussing the NPDES permit. It is just one piece of the puzzle. We only administer the Part 21 rules, along with the rules for water quality standards and effluent limitation development in accordance with federal NPDES permitting requirements. Next slide. The NPDES permitting process regulates the discharge of pollutants into the surface waters of the state. The permits include multiple mechanisms for controlling the discharge of pollutants, such as effluent limitations, monitoring requirements, and other conditions for site-specific concerns. The two types of standards used to develop limitations for a proposed discharge include treatment technology-based standards and water quality-based standards. For treatment technology-based standards, the EPA has developed effluent limit guidelines, or ELGs, for specific industries. These ELGs set industry-wide standards that all wastewater dischargers must attain. ELGs are often based upon treatment technologies, but do not specify the type of treatment required to be used to meet the standard. The other standards used are water quality-based standards, which are developed through a site-specific evaluation of water conditions at the discharge point to waters of the state. Next slide. Again, the treatment technology-based standards are based on a national evaluation of a specific industry and the treatment technologies used at these facilities. The department evaluates the effluent limitations, or ELGs, developed by EPA for a specific industry and implements these national standards, typically by numeric effluent limitations, in an NPDES permit. The ELGs for the ore mining and dressing point source category are applicable to the Copperwood Mine facility, and so were utilized to develop limits for this permit reissuance. Next slide. Water quality-based effluent standards are established to protect the designated uses of our surface waters. These include uses such as fishing, swimming, and aquatic life. Our biologists and engineers use a variety of information from the application and existing site-specific water quality data, and they recommend limitations for parameters that are expected to be present at levels of concern. Next slide. In general, Draft NPDES permits are developed using information submitted in the application documents and recommendations provided from the water quality-based reviews and treatment technology-based reviews. In cases where recommendations for the same parameter are developed for both sets of standards, the more stringent value is included in the permit. For example, if the water quality-based limitation for a specific parameter is 10 milligrams per liter and the treatment technology-based limitation is 5 milligrams per liter, we are required to include the 5 milligrams per liter limitation in the permit so that the permit is protective of both standards. Other monitoring requirements and effluent limitations included in the permit are also reviewed for consistency with other types of discharges. Next slide. At each reissuance, the biologist completes a review for threatened and endangered species. The presence of a threatened and endangered species informs the biologist's recommendations. Permit limits are protective of designated uses, which includes cold water streams and aquatic organisms like the red-side dace. Next slide. During each permit reissuance, the department reevaluates information on the discharge from the facility, reviews any permit violations, and conducts site inspections. The department then determines whether any requirements need to be added to the permit to meet permitting requirements or to protect water quality. Also, the department will remove any requirements from the permit that have been determined no longer necessary to ensure discharge the discharge meets standards. Next slide. Now, with all that in mind, we'll move on to the proposed reissuance of the NPDES permit for Copperwood Mine. On this slide, there is a map where you can see the outfall locations for the proposed facility. The outfalls are shown in the center of the image. Both of the outfalls are located on West Namabinog Creek. Outfall 1 is the outfall for the treated processed wastewater associated with the proposed tailings disposal facility, and outfall 2 is the outfall for treated sanitary wastewater associated with the proposed wastewater stabilization lagoon. Next slide. The site has not been developed yet for mining operations, and no discharge has occurred since the first permit was issued in November 2012. This will be the third reissuance of the NPDES permit for the facility, and again, no discharge has occurred. Therefore, only one major modification was made to the permit during this reissuance. That modification was for outfall 001. The permit reflects more strict limits for ammonia and nitrogen and revised monitoring seasons that are protective of the chronic ammonia nitrogen toxicity criterion adopted by the department in 2019. Next slide. I would like to highlight the permit condition under Part 1A1J titled Additional Requirements for Reverse Osmosis Treatment. This condition specifies that the permeate or discharge produced from the reverse osmosis treatment must be managed to minimize toxicity. A properly operated and maintained reverse osmosis treatment system is effective at removing metals, suspended particles, total dissolved solids, and other pollutants from wastewater. Water produced from reverse osmosis has low pH and alkalinity and is demineralized, meaning the water lacks hardness or ions to function like a buffer and therefore can be corrosive, for example, to metal piping. This lack of hardness can also cause metals toxicity in the discharge, as the toxicity of some metals is dependent on the hardness of the water. The lower the hardness, the greater the toxicity. Low hardness and low pH can also cause toxicity in whole effluent toxicity testing. Therefore, the permittee is required to comply with pH limits between 6.5 and 9.0 standard units and the specified limits for 19 metals, as well as whole effluent toxicity for acute and chronic effects. Compliance with the specified limits can involve a remineralization system in which hydrated lime is used as an ion source and added to the water produced from reverse osmosis treatment. Next slide. The permit also includes limits for total dissolved solids at outfall 001. Total dissolved solids are regulated under Rule 51 of Michigan's Part 4 Water Quality Standards. The rule states that TDS, also known as total dissolved solids, in waters of the state should not exceed 500 milligrams per liter as a monthly average and 700 milligrams per liter at any time. Limits are calculated by determining what discharge concentration will maintain the in-stream TDS concentration to at or below these values. Consideration is taken of background concentrations of TDS and the ratio of flow between the design flow of the facility and the drought flow of the receiving stream. Next slide, please. The draft permit allows for submittal of water treatment additives requests after the permit is issued and also throughout the permit cycle. It is common for facilities to request or change additives during the life of a permit. Issuance of a permit does not authorize the discharge of any water treatment additives. Once the facility submits the water treatment additive request through MyEnviro, a biologist will review all information provided to approve or disapprove the proposed additive. Again, all water treatment additives must be approved prior to discharge by the facility. The draft permit includes a condition to initiate a permit modification if approval of the water treatment additive would result in monitoring or additional permit limitations. Next slide. That concludes the overview of the proposed permit. Before we move on to the Q&A, I wanted to address how to submit comments in MyEnviro for anyone interested in submitting comments after the public hearing. You should start out on the MyEnviro homepage and select Public Notice Search options. Next slide. In the site name bar, type out Copperwood. As you scroll over the entry, it will highlight blue. Click within either entry to take you to the next page. Please note that you do not need to submit a comment for each entry. Your comment will be compiled regardless of which Copperwood line you choose. Next slide. On this next page, you can select the Documents tab to view the draft permit and related documents, or you can select the Add Comment button at the top of the page to take you to the comment submission form. Next slide. This is what the form should look like. The only required items are your name, email address, and comment. However, there are other fields you can fill out, including a drop box in case you'd like to include any attachments. Once filled out, you just have to click Submit. That's it for me. I'm going to hand things back over to Ryan.
All right, many thanks for providing that information, Renee. We're going to go ahead and jump right into the question and answer session. So at this time, I'd like our Eagle Water panelists to turn their cameras on, and we'll get through some of your questions here. You can either submit your questions using the Q&A box. You'll see that at the bottom of your screen. You can type it in, send your question to us. At the bottom of your screen, you'll also see a raise hand icon. You can click that raise hand, and that will raise your hand in Zoom. You can also, that'll allow you to raise your hand and we can call on you using your name, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask your question out loud. Or if we have some phone-in callers, and it looks like we do, you can raise your hand in Zoom by selecting *9 or *9. So that will raise your hand in Zoom and we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. A couple things to keep in mind too. This session that we have right now is specifically for question and answer, so we'll take your questions. If you have a statement or a comment that you'd like to make, please save that, hold on to that until the next part of the evening where we open the hearing part itself, and we'll allow everybody to make a statement for the record on this application. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll kind of go back and forth. We'll start with some of the questions that are in the Q&A box, and then we'll go to some of your raised hands. All right, so there are some questions in here. The first one, it's asked by the same person, so I'm going to combine 2 that are here. It says and this was touched on in the presentation, and I think the question was asked afterwards, but feel free to elaborate. The 2010 study commissioned by the project states further investigation of the red side dace populations within and in the vicinity of the project area will undoubtedly be required by permitting agencies. And so the question is, that was over 16 years ago. Has there been a new study of red side dace since then? And then the second part of that is asked by the same person, and it says, why does Dean Scott, and I think that's referring to Scott Dean, who's in our Office of Public Information, tell Michigan Advance that no red side dace are downstream from the proposed discharge site when the 2010 survey clearly shows there is? Point N1 on page 30 of that study.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for that question. So the 2010 report, that report was actually completed for a different permit. It was completed for the mine permit, and an NPDES discharge permit. The aquatic surveys are out of scope for an NPDES permit, and they're not required by an NPDES permit. That survey was done for a completely different permit than the NPDES permit. With regards to the comment that Scott Dean made to Michigan Advance, upon further review of the information that we had provided to Scott Dean, we did in fact verify that yes, the red side dace was identified near the mouth of the Namabenug Creek. So yes, if possible, we would like to correct that in the future with Michigan Advance.
All right, thank you, Renee. So this next one is a long one, but bear with me. Referring to Michigan Administrative Rule 323.1098 on anti-degradation, Citizens Guide to Water Quality Permitting Lakes, talks about how high quality water should be maintained unless there is an overriding economic or social need for lowering the water quality, as determined by an anti-degradation rule. Outlines a procedure for making this demonstration, but also say in waters determined to be outstanding state resource waters, water quality cannot be lowered. That includes all waters of the Lake Superior Basin. So the question is, so does this mean that no degradation of outstanding state resource waters is allowed? The biologist report states that during the certain times of the year, the stream will be effluent dominated. That would seem to preclude any discharge of contaminants and significantly higher than concentrations that are already in the stream. I know that was a lot to take in. Let me know if you want me to reread any part of that.
That's okay. Thanks, Ryan. So with any discharge that's authorized in the state of Michigan, there is some lowering of water quality, but the lowering of water quality is not lower than what are the established water quality standards. And so the project is allowed to discharge with, and the limits are protective of water quality. As far as the effluent dominated condition that may happen at the project site, again, the limits in the permit are protective of water quality, and those water quality values are based on toxicological studies and are protective for all aquatic organisms.
All right. Thanks, Renee. I read they want to discharge 500,000 gallons a day into the creek, which then drains into Lake Superior. Is that correct?
That is correct. That was the authorized flow requested by the facility. They are authorized up to 500 gallons per day to discharge at outfall 001.
And this is somewhat of a follow-up. What is their main water source?
My understanding is when they're going to construct this mine, they are going to construct a tailings basin that's going to collect precipitation, and they're going to be reusing that water as part of their process and as part of processing the ore as well. As they're mining the ore, they're going to be dewatering the mine as well, and that water is going to be put into the tailings basin as well, and they will be reusing that water too for their process wastewater or process operations.
All right, thank you. Next question, how is the permit enforced? How does Eagle ensure standards in the permit are met? And what are the penalties if the company ends up polluting the stream?
I can step in on that. We have many NPDES permitted facilities in the UP and a couple mines. We have staff that regularly go inspect the mines. We coordinate with EPA to create our checklists and our guidelines to inspect the places. In addition, we have a compliance sampling inspections. We have a van or a panel truck that comes up unannounced, and we go to the facilities and we take samples. And you know, we're there, we watch them, we sample them, we make sure they comply with their permit, like many places. So.
All right, thanks, Jay. I think we're going to go to the raised hands. We do have a raised hand. And again, just a reminder, this part of the is for Q&A of the hearing, and then we'll move on to statements after this part. So Kathleen, we are going to unmute you, and you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. Are you there, Kathleen?
Hi, Ryan. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so my question is about the criteria in the draft permit that specifies the whole effluent toxicity test shall be conducted using the species of the fathead minnow and Seraphodaphnia dubia. If the effluent discharges have to be protective of the designated uses of the stream, which is fisheries and other indigenous aquatic life, is the dace considered other indigenous aquatic life? And if the dace is so much more sensitive to sedimentation or any pollution or changes in TDS or changes in temperature, like how is that test going to be protective of red-side dace? Thanks.
I can answer this one. Thanks for the question. So the fathead minnow and the Seraphodaphnia dubia are the only two promulgated test species for chronic whole effluent toxicity testing. Those species are widely used throughout whole effluent toxicity testing for freshwater streams throughout the U.S. EPA has not promulgated other test species like the red-side dace or other aquatic life or chronic toxicity testing for freshwater organisms. So the fathead minnow and the Seraphodaphnia dubia are kind of used as surrogate species for that test, for that type of testing, to ensure that all aquatic life are protected, including the red-side dace.
All right, thanks, Glenn. I don't have any other raised hands, so we're going to go back to the question and answer Q&A box. There are a few questions that are in here that are not related to the permit or the site. So in the interest of time, we're going to stick to questions that are related to this application. Just so you all are aware, if you asked a question that was not related to this location. Are you monitoring the wastewater for PFAS?
No, PFAS is not PFAS parameters are not in the permit, and the wastewater is not expected to be a source of PFAS.
All right, thank you. Why are biological surveys of aquatic species outside the scope of the NPDES permit if the discharged effluent could potentially impact those species?
The NPDES is based on water quality and the monitoring of pollutants that are discharged to a receiving water. It's based on water quality, not going out and surveying fish, which is more of like a biological component. We have a group of biologists within the Water Resources Division that go and survey the health of our waters. And so there's a different arm of Water Resources Division that looks at the health of our water resources.
And Ryan, I can just add that, you know, all the permit is set up to be protective for all aquatic species, including, you know, aquatic insects, small fish, large fish. It's protective of human health. So our requirements are established for protective of all discharges to surface waters of the state. So we don't necessarily need to conduct a survey to determine what species are present. We are protective for all species.
All right. Thank you both. How often does Eagle deny a permit, perhaps on a percentage basis? Does public input have an impact on whether a permit is approved or denied? Since we aren't technical experts, does Eagle consider public input on proximity to public lands or overall effect on the environment?
I can't comment on how many permits are denied.
I'll take over, Renee. So
Okay,
yeah, we do. The department does deny a few permits. Percentages, we know we don't have that number handy, but we do occasionally deny permits, and you know, our goal is to determine compliance with these facilities that are permitted. So we work with them to make sure that they can meet their limits. If we have a facility proposed that is unable to attain water quality standards or unable to meet those limits, they usually withdraw their applications. We don't go through the whole formal permitting process for a denial. So it's atypical that we would go all the way through a permitting process just to say a facility cannot have a permit. Typically, we work with them. We tell them that for your particular process, these would be your standards, and then they determine that they could not meet those standards, so then they withdraw their application. So there's not really a formal denial, but we do have a number of facilities that do propose discharges for areas, and that they make the decision that they can't comply with the requirements, and so they look at different options.
All right, thanks. Anything? And the second part of that was related to public input, and anything you want to add to that part of it on how the public input is used?
Yes. So of course, we want and accept public comments on our public notice, and then during these public hearings, and we will evaluate any of the comments or questions or concerns that are raised and consider that as part of our permitting action. So yes, we do appreciate all comments submitted on a proposed NPDES permit.
All right, thank you. Just to give everybody an update and status, we currently have 21 open questions. So bear with us as we try to get through as many of your questions as we can. Will the water around the facility be checked as part of Eagle's monitoring?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, we check the discharge, and for Humboldt Mill, if there's a request for it's called our targeted monitoring request. If a request comes in and it's determined to meet our workload, we'll go look at the stream downstream regardless of the discharge. We do it for other mines, so most likely yes, but not part of the permit. The permit regulates the discharge. The other side will be our normal work where we go out and look at watersheds.
All right, thanks, Jay. What is Copperwood's plan for water filtration system and for the treatment of the water?
They are planning, oh, Jay, they are planning to use several different technologies, including reverse osmosis, and that can remove several contaminants, as I stated in my presentation earlier. It's a pretty effective treatment technology.
All right. Thank you. Looks like you have a raised hand. We're going to go to raised hands right now. Jeff Plummer, we are going to unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Are you there, Jeff? All right, looks like you're unmuted on our end. You might have an audio issue on your end. So
Can you hear me now?
oh, yep, you were a little broken, but we can hear you. Are you there?
Hi, Jeff Plummer, UP resident. I was curious, some of the studies mentioned because certain species were deemed to be safe in certain discharges. How do we know this is the case with the red-side dace if there weren't specific studies done on the red-side dace specifically? I have concerns that I don't know that this can be extrapolated one species to another, and can somebody comment on that?
Thanks for your question, Jeff.
Glenn, would you like to take a shot at that one?
I'll try. That's a good question. Probably a tough question thus far. So when we develop water quality values for toxic substances, our toxicologists review all available studies and literature that those pollutants were conducted on various aquatic lives, different fish and other aquatic organisms. Now, I can't speak if any of those values for those substances that are limited in the permit were based on red side days. That I do not know off the top of my head. We would have to discuss that with our toxicologist and water resources division to determine if there was if any of that information exists on the red side days.
Hey, can I comment? Glenn is a guy that chases down whole F1 toxicity across the UP with 7 employees for, they're also required to test for Daphnia, which are little tiny water fleas, sea monkeys almost. And they're much more sensitive than the fish. So when we see a toxicity problem, usually it's for the Daphnia test, and the fish are fine. So the fish are the least sensitive of the 2 things that are being tested. Nobody's done it for red-sided dace, I'm sure. But anyways, in my experience, when we start chasing down these problems, it starts with the Daphnia. That's how we figure it out.
Yeah, thank you both. All right, we have another raised hand, and then we'll go back to the Q&A box. Bill Dam, we are going to unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. So what is the chronic limit for aquatic life for chromium in Michigan? I'm sorry, I said chromium, I meant cobalt.
Cobalt.
For cobalt, and I'll just give you some information I found that cobalt in the NPDES permit is being requested to be discharged at 100 micrograms per liter, which is 0.42 pounds per day, based on the 500,000 gallons per day. Canada and some US states set a chronic limit for aquatic life at 25 times lower than being proposed in the permit application. So how is that protective according to the anti-degradation rule of the red-side dace and other aquatic organisms and insects and things like that?
Okay. Thanks for your question, Bill. Anybody have any thoughts on that one?
I can take a stab at that one. Good question. So in our Part 4 water quality standards, we have a pretty large rule that it's Rule 323 1057, or just Rule 57 is what we call it. That sort of describes the process and how we develop water quality values for toxic substances, including cobalt. So our toxicologist in Water Resources Division, again, they look at all available literature and studies that were out there on all aquatic life, and they have to figure out what tests are acceptable in deriving those water quality values. So our water quality standards in Part 4 are approved by EPA. In many cases, they might differ from what other states or even what Canada has. Others, not all states have the same criteria that we have, or rules that we have, but we all have to follow protection of, rules that protect the Great Lakes region. So, they might be different. Some of our values are different than other states. It might be a question we can look at with our toxicologist as well.
All right, thanks, Glenn. We're going to go back to try to answer some more of the questions in the Q&A box. One question is, if approved, this permit would allow Copperwood Mine to discharge up to 0.504 million gallons per day of treated processed wastewater, tailings basin wastewater, and mine dewatering wastewater, and an unspecified amount of stormwater through a pipe and outfall 001. Does this mean that all these wastewater sources will be treated before being discharged, or just the processed wastewater?
Yes, it means that all those wastewaters will be treated. We didn't put the word treated in front of each of those, but it's implied that they're all treated before discharge.
All right, thank you. Isn't the TDS limit of 500 milligrams per liter monthly protective of drinking water, in parentheses, human health, rather than macroinvertebrate health?
Maybe Philip knows best on that, how that number was set. There's also a controllable component of it too. But can you jump in, Philip? If not.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Philip DePietro. I'm with the permit section in the Water Resources Division. Similar to Glenn, I work on calculating effluent limits. So the TDS standard of 500 milligrams per liter as a monthly average is based on protecting the agriculture use of the water, which all waters of the state are protected for. Higher TDS has a negative effect on crops and irrigation. So that rule is set based on what is considered most protective. We usually do not see impacts to macroinvertebrates and aquatic life until we see higher levels of TDS typically over 1,400, 1,500 milligrams per liter. Again, that's not a set number, but by protecting for that lower use of agriculture, the more restrictive limit, we are also protecting aquatic life.
All right, thanks for chiming in, Philip. We had just a couple more minutes left for the question and answer session, and then we have to move on to the hearing portion, because that's the purpose of today's hearing is to take your comments. So do water quality standards differ by region? For example, are the standards at Copperwood location differ from those downstate?
I'll pass that to Glenn just for clarification.
Can you repeat that, Ryan?
Yeah, no problem. Give me a second. I was scrolling and I think I lost it. We currently have 2022. Oh, there we go. Do water quality standards differ by region? For example, are the standards at the Copperwood location different from those downstate?
No. We have all surface water of the state are protected for all designated uses and all our water quality standards apply similarly across the state. Some of the water quality based effluent limits may differ because some of our metals are total hardness dependent. And then, we apply a mixing zone if there's dilution in the receiving water. So that might result in different water quality based effluent limits for different permits, throughout the state.
All right, thanks, Glenn. Do the acceptable levels of any pollutant include the cumulative effect of a pollutant? So that's kind of the first question. And then do acceptable levels of the discharge also include the warming of the water? And there were a couple questions on warm temperature in here as well. So any thoughts on those two?
Glenn, would you like to respond?
Can you repeat that one again?
Yeah, no problem. So the first part was, do acceptable levels of any pollutant include the cumulative effects of a pollutant? And then the second part of that is, do acceptable levels also include the warming of the water, so temperature?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question. Our whole effluent toxicity limits that are in the permit and those testing requirements would be kind of a measure of the cumulative effect of the final effluent as a whole. I'm not sure about temperature in relation to that question.
There's another one on temperature that might is the question. Another question related to temperatures. I want to know if the discharge will increase the temperature of the stream, or if the temperature of the discharge is regulated. I don't know if that's another temperature.
There's not expected to be an elevated temperature for this discharge. There's no cooling, contact or non-contact cooling involved in the process for the discharge.
All right. Thank you very much, Renee. We are at the point in the night where we need to move on to the next part of the hearing, which is what the purpose of the hearing is to take your comments related to this application and permit. Sorry if we weren't able to get to all of your questions. We will be providing Renee's contact information after the hearing, or at the end of the hearing, I should say, in case you want to follow up with Renee further related to any of your questions. All right, but before we get to the hearing part, I just want to make sure you're aware there's some other ways that you can make a comment for the record on this application. You can submit through MyEnviro, and Renee provides a good walkthrough of how to submit that through MyEnviro. That's our system database on permitting, and we're going to put this link in the chat as well. I think we may have already put it in there once. But in case you don't want to submit a comment by tonight, or through MyEnviro, you can also submit your comment by mail to Renee Payag, Water Resources Division, Eagle, Post Office Box 30458, Lansing, Michigan 48909-7958. And the comment period will be remaining open until July 17th. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with the process of taking your comments tonight. I have an opening statement, which will open the hearing part of tonight, and our ability to take those comments. So this will include instructions and procedures for the hearing. All right, procedures for the hearing. This public hearing will be used to take comments on the proposed reissuance of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES, permit for Copperwood Mine, NPDES permit number MI0058969, located at 1538 North County Road 519, Wakefield, Gogebic County, Michigan 49968. So how the comment process will work today. For those of you who pre-registered to attend today's hearing and indicated you would like to make a comment, we will call your name and unmute your microphone so that you can make your comment. We will call your name in the order in which you registered. Once we have called the names of everyone who indicated they want to make a comment during registration, we will open up comments to other attendees. At that time, if you have not made a comment and wish to do so, please click the raise hand icon to indicate you want to make a comment. If you're calling in by phone, please select *9 on your phone to raise your hand. We will call on those who have their hand raised to make a comment in the general order in which their hand was raised. Each person will have 3 minutes to make their comment, and I will indicate when you have 1 minute left and when your time has expired. If I indicate your time has expired, please wrap up your comments immediately so we can allow the next person to make their comment. Please be sure to state your name and any organization you represent prior to starting your comment. If you'd like to make a comment but do not wish to make a verbal comment today, you are welcome to submit a written comment to the department. Written comments may be submitted online on our MyEnviro database, which I talked about before. The link is being provided into the chat. Comments can also be submitted to Renee Pionk at the following address: Water Resources Division, Eagle, Post Office Box 30458, Lansing, Michigan 48909-7958. The hearing is being recorded, and your comments will be part of the information that the department will consider in the proposed reissuance of the NPDES permit for Copperwood Mine. And again, that's NPDES permit number MI0058969. Comments received will not be responded to at this time, but will be included in response to public comments documents and be part of the permanent record. All comments and information received will be available in MyEnviro, our online database. This public comment period is open until July 17th, 2026. All right. So a couple things before we get started. And just to reiterate a couple things, everybody's going to have 3 minutes. You'll see a countdown timer counting down from 3 minutes when it's your turn. It'll be showing up at the top so you know how much time you have left. And then when you have 1 minute, you're going to hear the sound when there's 1 minute left. So that way you know what your time is and you can start wrapping up comments. As mentioned, we are going to start with the people who indicated during registration they would like to make a comment. And I have a list of 43 names who indicated they want to make a comment in registration. So we'll be going through one by one. We're going to start off with the first person. We're going to put names in the chat so you know who's coming up next. And then when you're called upon, we'll unmute you. You can unmute your mic and make your statement. A couple other things, it's 1 comment per person. So if you've spoken once, you won't be able to make your comment again. And we're going to be here until everybody has had that opportunity to make a comment. So you all have a chance to make a comment tonight. So I think that is, one other thing. So depending on how long tonight goes, about every hour we'll take about a 10-minute break, just to allow us some time to use the restroom and get a drink of water and so forth. And so we'll be announcing when we have those at that time. But just know that we will be taking some breaks if we have a long evening ahead of us. All right. So with that, the first name on my list is Tom Gordewall. So Tom, we are going to find you in the audience and then unmute you, and then you'll be able to make your statement. And see, I'm not seeing other Tom. There you are, Tom. All right, Tom, you are unmuted, and you can begin.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, Tom here from Protect the Porkies. So in May, the mining company released a statement. I quote, "The stream receiving discharge was specifically selected as it has no red-side dace or other aquatic species. But the 2009 survey commissioned by the project collected 50 fish downstream from the discharge site, including brook stickleback, rainbow trout, and yes, the endangered red-side dace. So Eagle is considering approving a permit to an inexperienced foreign mining company which wrongfully claimed no aquatic species in the stream. Please let that sink in. Reverse osmosis removes some toxins, but not all, and becomes corrosive. To treat corrosiveness, more chemicals are added, creating increasingly alien water. In the end, no amount of steps can manufacture natural stream water. As a parallel, consider how in industrial agriculture, the notion that soil needs only nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, or NPK, has resulted in a massive loss of nutrients and food because it ignores the contributions of fungi, microbes, and the irreducible complexity of nature. Similarly, this biologically vacant wastewater, whether or not it is toxic, would entirely lack the vitality required for the red-side dace and other life forms to thrive. 500,000 gallons per day may not be a lot for the Mississippi River, but for this humble stream, it would be significant. Red-side dace use a sequence of pools as their habitat and occupy shallow systems where ice is a dominant feature during winter. By increasing creek volume year-round to the point that it is effluent dominated and no longer ice producing in the same way, the proposal would absolutely result in the stream no longer being home to the red-side dace and other current inhabitants, even though that may not be revealed by your toxicity tests on the 2 sample organisms. Instead, the mine could employ zero liquid discharge, in which all wastewater is mechanically evaporated with the remaining toxins crystallized and transported off-site. Why not make use of existing hazardous waste facilities rather than turning the stream and Lake Superior into one? The mining company says that soaring copper prices have led to the net value of their project rising from $170 to $850 million. Shouldn't they invest some of those profits into a better deal for Michigan's lands and waters? Last year, Eagle approved a permit for a mine exhaust tower 150 feet from the Porcupine Mountains. In the years before, your pen strokes resulted in over 60 acres of wetlands and multiple streams being destroyed. How many frogs, newts, turtles, insects, and other life forms were annihilated? Literally countless, because no one bothered counting, all for the sake of a speculative, unfunded, highly opposed project, which very likely will not move forward. If you now approve a permit for this company to dump wastewater into the habitat of an endangered fish, in spite of feasible alternatives like zero liquid discharge, please consider the harms to your reputation in the eyes of all those who come here to enjoy clean water, fresh air, and pure Michigan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, Tom. All right, next up is Guy Ryder. So Guy, we're going to find you in the audience and then unmute you, and you will be able to make your statement. All right. Looks like you are unmuted, Guy. You there?
Yeah, Poso, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, Poso, Anaquitnit Cam, Wapasha Nito Tam, Kashitna, Initski Wakian, by Wanan Mauni Wake Saitua. My name is Guy Ryder. I live on a Menominee Indian reservation. And I wanted to just first and foremost say that, you know, I'm opposed absolutely to Copperwood Mine, NPDES permit, and any kind of development of that land any further. But I also wanted to bring one of my older relatives here that I wanted to make sure got a chance to say something. You know, unfortunately, they don't really speak English, so I'm going to interpret as best I can for them. You want to go? So what he basically said there is he said that he lives where the land meets the sky, where he, the eagle and the raven, fly free. He said he lives under the sun and the moon. He's also said that he's been flying over these ridges longer than Michigan has been a state. He said he's listened to wolves, loons, biologists, loggers, tourists, fishermen. Okay. He also wanted to say that he's read your monitoring plan. And he said that groundwater doesn't care about permits. It doesn't read environmental monitoring plans. It doesn't stop at property lines. It follows fractures, gravity, chemistry, and time. You don't negotiate with geology. Water has a terrible habit of ignoring meetings. It doesn't care about permits. It doesn't even care about your confidence levels. He says that you'll spend millions predicting contamination and where it might go instead of making absolutely certain it has nowhere to go. That's like buying a really expensive smoke detector because you're not quite sure about the wiring. One last thing he wanted to say, I know. He says, if your monitoring wells are smoke detectors, why are so many of them designed to tell you where there's a fire only after the house is already full of smoke? He said that's an honest question. He also says something else. He says every monitoring plan is based on assumptions. Every groundwater model has uncertainty. Every prediction has error bars. And I was thinking about Gitchagummy, Lake Superior. He says, do you call this a resource? He calls it a home. You measure it in gallons. He measures it in generations. Your mining project lasts decades, but his responsibility lasts until the last fish and the last pine. His last final statement is if your science is good, questions should make it stronger. If your monitoring is truly protective, independent scrutiny shouldn't frighten you.
Right.
And if you're asking whether caution is expensive, ask the rivers what restoration costs. And
Right.
if your questions make everyone uncomfortable.
Guy, you're out of time, so it'd be great if you could wrap your comment up.
Okay, I just want to have one last thing for my relative here.
Hey, Guy, we're going to have to move on to the next. You're over time, but thank you for your comment. All right. So next up on our list, and there are some people who are not on the line tonight. Looks like Charlotte Loonsfoot is on our list, but not on the line. And then we have Marilyn McGeeshick. Marilyn, you are unmuted on our end. And are you there, Marilyn?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. You can begin when you're ready.
All right, I'm just here for the information and the knowledge, and I appreciate being here. I just wanted to speak as a LVD tribal member, speak for the water and to recognize that the water has rights and a spirit, and it shouldn't be like violated and disregarded. And I wonder how that non-ionized water rushing into it would have effect on like the little aquatic life, but the animals that eat that too, that we might end up hunting. You know how it goes, little fish, big fish, and bear. But yeah, I'm just here to ask to deny this permit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right. So it looks like next up is Carrie Ann Turberville is not here. John Peralta is not here. Next up would be Karen Blanco. So Karen, we are going to unmute you, and you can unmute yourself. Are you there, Karen?
I am. Thank you. This is Karen Blanco. Thank you so much for the opportunity to submit my comment. I appreciate your time. As a full-time Upper Peninsula resident, I am asking Eagle to deny the NPDES permit to Highland Copper, an unfunded and inexperienced foreign mining company, and request a new survey of the red side dace population. This permit would allow Highland Copper to dump 768,000 pounds of dissolved solids a year into the creek, which is the equivalent of dumping 153 Ford F-150s into the creek each year for over 10 years, leaching mercury, selenium, cadmium, among others, into the creek and downstream further. Furthermore, Eagle's own employees are unfortunately making erroneous statements. I did hear that you all are you're looking for an opportunity to correct that. I really hope you make good on that and do correct that statement, put out a public release that actually there are red side dace, and we know that they are both upstream and downstream from the discharge site. Highland Copper is an unfunded and inexperienced foreign mining company and has a documented pattern of ignoring and disregarding permits and the entire American permitting process. In 2018, the company drilled without a permit, landing them a paltry fine of $25,000. In 2023, again, they showed their complete disregard for our government and laws when they decided they didn't need to go through the process of renewing a permit for excavating temporary stream channels. They clearly didn't learn their lesson from 2018, and why should they? They stand to make hundreds of millions of dollars extracting highly valuable copper from our land, so they're clearly just willing to pay the minuscule fines and continue doing as they please. And lastly, they're requesting a permit they don't even need. They could utilize zero liquid discharge, which mechanically evaporates all wastewater and transports the remaining solids off-site. Oh, but that's more expensive for them. I'm sorry, but who cares if it's more expensive for them? They stand to rake in hundreds of millions off of it, money that Michigan and its residents will never see a penny of. So why the heck would we not demand that they hold themselves to the highest standards possible and do things like utilize zero liquid discharge? If they want to remove our copper out of our country, then that's the price of doing business. In light of these factors, we ask that Eagle deny the NPDES permit to Highland Copper and conduct a new survey of the creek and their impacts of the wastewater dumping into it. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Karen. All right, next up is Kathleen Heidemann. So Kathleen, you are unmuted on our end. Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Kathleen Heidemann. I'm speaking as a board member of the Upper Peninsula Environmental Coalition. After we reviewed the proposed draft NPDES permit renewal for Copperwood, we've concluded it's insufficient to truly protect water quality and aquatic life in West Branch Namabinog Creek, which is a designated cold water stream fully supporting designated uses that include cold water fishery and other indigenous aquatic life and wildlife. The mine wants to use this little creek as a ditch or a sewer pipe to bring its discharge effectively directly to Lake Superior. But the Namabinog is home to an endangered species of fish, the red-side dace, considered highly indicative of stream health as it requires clean, cool, well-connected streams in order to survive. The West Branch Namabinog Creek flows downhill to merge with Namabinog Creek before joining Lake Superior. The shoreline is just a mile downstream from the discharge pipe of Outfall 1. It will receive wastewater discharges at Outfall 1 and 2. We know the mining industry relies on freshwater lakes, rivers, and streams to carry away and dilute their mining waste. For example, the Humboldt Mill discharges to the middle branch of the Escanaba using a mixing zone, but West Namabinog Creek is too small to provide a mixing zone. There will be no dilution available. In fact, the stream will be effluent dominated once discharges commence, meaning the stream will be mostly mine wastewater. Copperwood is essentially using it as a discharge pipe. We are alarmed that the numerous pollutants in this permit are report only and have often no daily limit. None of the treatment facilities have been designed or constructed, so we can't review that. And we have no reason to believe that the high quality effluent they described in their original application is achievable. Total dissolved solids were set too high for protecting aquatic life like pollution sensitive fish. If the background level of TDS in the stream is non-zero, large quantity of TDS would double or triple this amount. In Canada, for example, stormwater releases in red-side dace habitat should not exceed 25 milligrams per liter of total solids above the background stream level of base flow conditions. The applicant did not include an anti-degradation statement. The anti-degradation statement should have been included because substantial changes have been included since the original NPDES was issued, including the total duration of the effluent discharges, the total life of mine, a doubling of the effluent discharges at Outfall 2 to 4.2 million gallons. And the original statement said that they could actually improve water quality in stream habitat by discharging into it. And additionally, as other people have mentioned, the zero liquid discharge was not even considered in the original anti-degradation demonstration. Anti-deg should have included zero liquid discharge and near zero liquid discharge, which are now considered the most environmentally protective control technologies used in the mining industry in Canadian mining and Arctic regions. Okay, we just encourage you to consider, again, the biologist recommendations, which were not fully incorporated into the draft permit.
Thanks for your comment, Kathleen. All right. All right, next up is Don Lee. So Don, we are going to unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself and begin.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So my name is Don Lee. I hold a PhD in environmental and energy policy from Michigan Technological University. I'm a season pass holder at the Porcupine Wilderness State Park, and I ski, backpack, camp, hike, bike, and do everything else across the Western UP. I'm a resident of Houghton in the Keweenaw Peninsula, where we live with the environmental ramifications of legacy mining on a daily basis. There are myriad problems, inconsistencies, omissions, and falsehoods coming from Highland Copper regarding the proposed Copperwood Mine, and I'm grateful to Eagle for extending the comment period and facilitating this meeting. I'm going to go to my ask first because I don't want to run out of time. So I would ask Eagle to deny this permit. Highland Copper has not presented adequate information to secure the permit. Highland Copper's reporting should be scrutinized by Eagle for correctness and consistency, specifically water treatment processes and species of concerns. Highland Copper should be required to provide an anti-degradation report. And Eagle should review the permitting processes that allowed for the destruction of 60 acres of wetland and 6 streams prior to having a fully permitted and funded project. Highland Copper proposes to dump over 500,000 gallons of treated processed wastewater per day into the gently flowing Namabinig Creek. The company hasn't finalized their plans for the water treatment, but they've proposed that the dissolved solids will be 2 to 3 times higher than the natural levels of TDS. These solids will be absorbed into sediment, stream banks, and ultimately into Lake Superior. Regardless of their filtering techniques, dumping 500,000 gallons of treated water a day into an otherwise healthy, biologically diverse ecosystem via a gently flowing stream will change the temperature, dilute the nutrients and microorganisms, and likely wipe out the majority of aquatic life in the stream. Highland Copper stated there is no aquatic life in the stream, despite their own environmental assessments to the contrary, showing over 50 species of fish. And in their 2018 feasibility report, that was included in the species of concern section, which was removed from their 2023 feasibility report. So I guess that's how they've come to this no aquatic life assertion. It seems to be intentionally deceptive. If you've ever been here, you know there's plenty of life in the streams, wetlands, and old growth forests in the areas around the Porkies. Highland Copper's already destroyed 60 acres of wetlands and 6 streams, despite the company having less than 5% of the over $400 million they propose as the cost of the project, which is not fully permitted, lacks the energy and water infrastructure to support operations. And this deficiency in the permitting process should not have been allowed to occur prior to the project being fully implemented or funded. I'm sorry, permitted or funded. Of deep concern, like data centers, they have not produced a plan for how they intend to secure 500,000 gallons of water per day that will be dumped as wastewater directly into Lake Superior. There's just not enough information, and Highland Copper has not been forthright nor honest or responsible in their actions and their assertions in their own reporting. And this should be of great concern to all of us interested in preserving this unique and fragile place. And I urge Eagle to take this incredibly seriously.
Thank you for your comment, Don. All right. Next up was Diana Oppenheim. It doesn't appear Diana's on, so Ann Steinberg is up.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to just make a short comment today. After listening to the hearing, I'm impressed that there's all these good intentions and rules set, but there's no discussion of penalties. And I don't think this company has good intentions. I think it's going to make millions of dollars. And I would like to hear from the state of Michigan what happens if they don't follow the rules of this permit. Is the mine shut down immediately? Are the fines significant enough that this mining company will be prevented from pollution? I think we have to be talking about penalties as well as conditions of a permit. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment.
So this is a public comment time, but I would be happy to wait around to the end and assess that, because we do compliance issue actions on NPDES permits. But you know, now's not the time. I should have addressed it in a question and answer. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Thanks for chiming in, Jay. Next up is Brandy Sweet.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yep, we can hear you. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay, my name is Brandy Sweet. I'm an advocate with IDRA of Michigan. I, like many others that have written in and will be speaking tonight, am asking that you deny this NPDES permit. There has been enough destruction in the area for this extremely opposed, underfunded mine. Such as many others have said, the destruction of over 60 acres of wetlands, which should be a major halt right there. But you're continuing on. Now you want to possibly permit to the discharge of up to 184 million gallons per year of contaminated wastewater into a creek that endangered fish, the red-side dace, used to survive. You all at Eagle state the discharge will be within legal limits, but Michigan legal limits are a joke that are still adding pollution, no matter what phrase you stamp on it. Plus, none of you from Eagle will be on site 24/7 to enforce anything that we know how hard it is to get a targeted water monitoring request granted through you all. Just previously, that's what he mentioned as for people to use, but I know it can take over 3 years from personal experience before you can be granted a targeted water monitoring request. This permit application seems highly questionable without a complete plan for the whole project, especially learning that alternate technologies such as zero liquid discharge have not been examined. There is absolutely no need to use the stream in Lake Superior as a waste dump when feasible alternatives do exist. You just have to look at them. Seems as though when the state or federal dollars are in the talks for a project, Eagle does anything to help fast track it forward, which is majorly concerning. These bigger projects affecting pristine areas and endangered species need all the scrutiny, not corners cut. Hopefully, Michiganders can see Eagle taking things seriously for a change with the denial of this permit until all alternative routes are examined. During the question and answer period, there was some major concern saying that an NPDES permit doesn't require endangered species studies. Like that doesn't even really make sense. And we as citizens and people learning this find it concerning. You guys do this every day. We understand that may be what the law states is needed or this is the criteria, but supposedly caring for the environment and for the water, as you all should, this being your job, you should start to advocate more for stricter testing, harder criteria, and caring for all species. Like the guy said that they want to protect all species. Start really doing that because you're severely lacking. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Brandy. All right. Next. Oh, are you there, Lydia?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Lydia Christensen. I live in Ironwood, 20 minutes away from where this proposed waste treatment plant would be. I'm the Libertarian nominee for the United States Senate in Michigan. I will be on the ballot. I'm asking Eagle to deny this permit, not condition it, not try to refix it. Limits on multiple metals, beryllium, boron, lead, manganese, strontium, cobalt, higher recommended amounts than what is good. One of the eight water treatment additives in this application is sodium isobutylate xanthate. A peer-reviewed research on xanthates already exists going back decades, documenting harm to fish embryos at extremely low concentrations. Xanthates break down into water into more toxic byproducts, including hydrogen sulfide. None of that appears in this application, and I understand that would be because they have to get certain separate permits. On Congress.gov, an analysis of U.S. copper mines, operating copper mines, found that 93% failed to capture and control mined wastewater, resulting in significant water quality impacts. This is Highland Copper's first major mine. They've never built or operated one before. Eagle measured this creek 3 different ways near outfall 001, and all 3 came back at near or close to 0. Near outfall 002, all 3 came back at 0. A permit like this assumes there's water to dilute the discharge into, and if there's no flow, there's nothing to dilute into. The discharge doesn't join the creek, it becomes the creek. Yet this company is requesting to dump wastewater 24 hours a day, every day, 500,000 gallons per day. The red-side dace are a fish classified as an endangered species in the state of Michigan. No testing to confirm how these pollutants will affect a legally protected endangered species. They've been documented in this watershed since 2010. The corrosive water plans to be dumped on this fish. They claim it to be harmless at a distance the company invented themselves in their own feasibility study. This permit is bad and it should be denied. From a startup foreign country in an industry that statistically has a contamination failure rate of 93%. No cooling process to ensure water meets the needs of the endangered fish. Copperwood Mine claimed no red-side dace. Eagle knows the truth that the red-side dace population is there. There's 60 acres of damaged wetland that we have seen happen already. Feasible options exist besides dumping in our water. The care required to manage such a mining project is not present, and the step to make this permit stronger never happened. The answer is always later. Later is not a water quality standard. Eagle should deny this permit. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Yvonne Bisek. All right, you there, Yvonne?
I'm here.
All right, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. I'll just say upfront, I'm not for the mine. I got an environmental degree in the 1980s to become a banker for the next 38 years. So I can't speak as a technical expert either. But I've stayed involved in all the environmental issues, and in retirement, I've become more of an activist for things like this. And so I have to rely on the experts and on people like yourselves. And I know you guys are hard pressed. You have criteria that if it's met, you're hard pressed to do more. But in the current environment, more specifically on the federal level, standards are being loosened at an alarming rate, and they seem to be giving large corporations and small ones better access to our natural resources. And that's why I have concerns, and that's why I feel strongly enough about them to show up for hearings like this. For me, this project is just too close to the Porcupine Mountains. I mean, bottom line, and the Great Lakes. And it's a beloved wilderness area. The Great Lakes are close by. You know, they're precious. And as I understand it, there is really no way to have a mine without having impacts. It just seems like it's not really possible. And these companies aren't always great guests in our home. So, you know, they're coming down to the people's land, but they don't leave their shoes at the door, and they smoke in the house, and they choke up the toilets. And, you know, if they mess up, we give them a small fine, or you guys give them a small fine, or whoever is in charge, and they move on. You know, we've seen it with the larger Canadian companies over and over again, and they just pay the fine and move on. So I think at the very least, the least we can do is insist on the very highest standards, like that zero liquid discharge. You know, if we feel like we're too far into this or whatever, at least we can hold them to the most expensive standards, regardless of the cost. And if they want our resources, they just need to leave the least impact. So we're just asking you guys to be public servants, not corporate servants. I'm old enough to remember, I grew up in Chicago. You could see the smog over the city, and you could fish in Lake Michigan, but you couldn't eat the fish because they were loaded with toxic chemicals. And, you know, we've made progress. And I just feel like lately, like it's going backwards. And this mine is an example of that. And I just ask you to keep that in mind, and I'm speaking against it. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Yvonne. All right, next up is Reed Eldred. So Reed, we're going to unmute you. And you should be able to, you're unmuted. Are
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks a lot for considering my comments. I'm located in Madison, Wisconsin, but I grew up in Gogebic County, and it's, you know, the place itself is nearer to me than any place I've ever lived. I think, you know, I just want to say thanks to Guy, to Don, to Tom, to Kathleen. I agree with everybody that's spoken in opposition to this project. You know, I do want to yield my time back to Guy. I want to use my time as quickly as possible. Please deny this permit. We've seen again and again how these unscrupulous fly-by-night mining companies come in and treat treat violations as a cost of doing business. But that's losing the sight. Yeah, I mean, they're talking about using this as a piss drain down into Lake Superior. It's completely unacceptable. I can't believe we're having this conversation. But all the people in Lansing that are looking at this, go up and walk the site. This is one of the rarest, most pristine wilderness areas between the Adirondacks and the Rocky Mountains. We shouldn't be having this conversation. The fact that this is even up for a public hearing is a travesty. And I want to yield my time back to the First Nations people who I'm here to support. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your comment, Reed. We're not able to, it's going to be per person, so we're not able to pass time back and forth.
Okay, in which case I'd like to point out, we're getting 100-year floods like every 5 years now. We know the climate change is happening. We know what's going on with the science. Take the playbook of what you think Mother Nature is going to do in this pristine wilderness area and throw it right out the window. We're going to get these 100-year floods with increasing regularity. This shady engineering is going to fail. This creek is going to turn into a pure affluent swamp. It's going to kill all the life in there. I don't know. I go up there and I drink from that water. You guys going to come up and drink from me? You go through the Western UP. I've been up there cleaning garbage up, like trying to fight every battle, trying to keep the invasive aquatic species out of the St. Louis Harbor. We never make the right decisions. And now here's a chance to level set and make the right decision for once. Go up there and walk the site before you permit this mine. It's unique, it's rare, it's priceless, it's more valuable than hundreds of millions of dollars. And you guys got to see that. We got to start seeing that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Johnson Bridgewater. All right, are you there, Johnson?
I'm here.
All right, you can begin when you're ready.
Great, thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on NPDES permit number MI 0058969. My name is Johnson Bridgewater. I'm a full-time resident of Gogebic County, and I respectfully urge Eagle to deny or at minimum postpone approval or reapproval of the proposed NPDES permit until there's clear independent scientific evidence demonstrating that this discharge will fully protect Michigan's waters as well as Lake Superior. Eagle's own environmental studies and watershed maps show that Namanog Creek, and if you want to put it in a more easier way, you can call it Creek of the Suckers. Namanog Creek is a direct tributary to Lake Superior. The lower reach of the creek connects to Lake Superior and is open to fish passage during appropriate water conditions. This means the proposed discharge is not confined to a small local stream. Like a thread woven into a larger tapestry, what enters Namanog Creek ultimately becomes part of the Lake Superior watershed. Contaminants, changes in chemistry, cumulative impacts are not going to stop at any permit boundary. They're going to keep moving downstream. This permit would authorize the discharge of up to 500,000 gallons of treated wastewater every day. While treatment may reduce pollutants, it does not eliminate every risk. Sulfates, dissolved metals, conductivity, nutrients, temperature changes, which has to be addressed. That is a request. Cumulative pollutant loading alter the aquatic ecosystem over time. The Clean Water Act was created to prevent degradation before it occurs, not after irreversible damage has already been done. I'd also like to ask that you recognize water is not a commodity to be treated and discharged. It is living, and it's the lifeblood of the very watershed and where you want to put this mine. It sustains fish, wildlife, wetlands, and entire communities. Even highly treated industrial effluent is fundamentally different from the naturally functioning water that supports a healthy stream ecosystem. This distinction deserves fuller and more careful scientific consideration. Finally, I ask Eagle to coordinate closely with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Although Eagle administrates the NPDES permit program, the Corps has independent responsibilities under Section 404 of the CWA for impacts to federally regulated waters and wetlands. The idea that Lake Superior and Namanog Creek are not connected is false. Federal review consultation is warranted in this, as Michigan citizens deserve a permitting process that is thorough, transparent, fully coordinated between state and federal agencies. Pollution does not recognize permit boundaries any more than water recognizes political boundaries. What enters Nabinag Creek becomes part of Lake Superior. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Johnson. All right, and it looks like we have number of people who are not on the line. Emma Shedd, Anna Houston, Jonathan Russum, Mangan Pamp, and then Max Wilbert is next. So Max, it looks like you're next. And we are going to unmute you. And then you can unmute yourself and begin your comment. All right, there should be a microphone button at the bottom of your, there you are. Are you there, Max?
Yep.
All right, you
Can
can
you hear
begin.
me?
Yep, you can begin your comment.
Okay, my comment is really for everyone listening. It's not for the Eagle employees. If you're not aware of this obscure part of U.S. history, the first regulatory body in the U.S. was set up to regulate railroads in the early or late 1800s. And the corporations actually welcomed this regulation because it created a stable and predictable legal environment for them. It protected them from public outrage. It legalized their activities. I have a lot of sympathy for the Eagle employees here who are probably doing their best, but their job is to give permits. That's their legal mandate, to provide legal permission for corporations to destroy land and pollute the environment up to certain limits. And those limits aren't determined by us. They're not determined by the wildlife, by the fish, by the trees, by the water. They're determined by faceless experts in office buildings who we never get any input on those decisions. This is really like negotiating terms of surrender. If regulatory law worked, we wouldn't have a species extinction crisis, sixth mass extinction of life on Earth. We wouldn't have cancer in young adults rising 79% between 1990 and 2019. We wouldn't have 50% of US waterways too polluted to drink, swim, or fish. We wouldn't have a climate crisis. Mining is fundamentally destructive to ecology no matter what regulations are put on it. This meeting isn't how democracy should work, with people getting muted by unelected and unaccountable government agencies. Outside forces want to come into this community, clear cut the forest, blow up the land, and leave behind generational pollution while they cut and run with their money. Eagle won't deny this permit. I hope, Eagle employees, that you'll prove me wrong. I truly do. Please prove me wrong. But for everyone listening, it's really time to escalate. In Serbia, when friends of mine and many thousands of people fighting a mining company trying to destroy the Jadar Valley, the mining company's vehicles were blockaded anytime they tried to enter the community. Local people and farmers literally said if they continued to come back, there would be blood. That was an understanding based on the fact that somebody dead due to pollution is just as dead as if they had been shot in a war. Corporations are, of course, a legal fiction. People are the ones making the decisions. And as the great folk singer Utah Phillips famously said, the earth is not dying, it's being killed, and the people who are killing it have names and addresses. So in the honor of Utah Phillips, I want to put on the record some of the names who are behind this planned destruction. Barry O'Shea, Sybil Sung, Peter Hempstead, Trace Arlaud, Stephen Hicks, David Tennant, Jonathan Cherry, Melanie Miller, Lane Farmer, and others, some of whom are probably listening right now. These people are predators and they need to be stopped.
Okay. Thank you for your comment, Max. All right, it looks like James Rasmussen is not on the line, so Jerry Hawley is next. All right, it looks like you're unmuted on our end. Are you there, Jerry? All right, looks like you're unmuted. So you may need to change your microphone setting because we can't hear anything at this moment. And then if you're still having some issues, Jerry, what we'll do is we'll allow the next, oh, are you there? All right, it sounds like you're getting some feedback. If you have more than one device on, you're going to need to mute it. Are you there?
Now, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Is there another computer on or?
Oh, not really.
Yeah, you're getting some feedback from something. I say, well, we'll come back to you, Jerry. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So next up will be Bill Dam. So Bill, you are unmuted and you can begin when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Bill Dam, and I'm an independent environmental scientist with 25 years federal and 15 years consulting experience. I've thoroughly reviewed the draft National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES permit application, and advocate for not granting permission to the Canadian company based on the following 7 reasons. 1, the Lake Superior Basin as a Tier 3 outstanding water must be protected from loading of pollutants according to the anti-degradation rule. Mining is proposed within 100 feet of the lake, while the cliff bank is eroding towards the mine site and discharge locations. 2, discharge of wastewater will result in the spread of contamination that will flow into small pools and beaver dams, offering no dilution of pollution. 3, critical habitats support many species like the endangered red-sided dace, which again violates the anti-degradation rule if not protected. 4, discharging up to 500,000 gallons per day with total dissolved solids of 2,000 pounds per day creates a toxic junkyard like wrecking 1,500 Ford F-150 trucks over a 10-year life of the mine. 5, iron minerals like pyrite, which is iron sulfide, particularly when it becomes oxidized by mining, are abundant, and oxidation can produce acid mine drainage. But iron and many other elements are not controlled or regulated in the NPDES draft permit. 6, arsenic is proposed to be discharged up to 10 micrograms per liter, while the MCL goal is 0. A 10-year mining operation could result in 146 pounds of arsenic accumulating, which is a known insecticide. Cobalt is requested to be 10 times greater in concentration than arsenic. Ironically, Canada and some states like New York set a chronic limit for aquatic life at 25 times lower than proposed in the permit application. Based on the comment today, I will review Rule 57 to learn more about how you came up with limits that are 25 times higher than Canada allows. 7, the discharger failed to propose available technology in process and treatment like mechanical evaporation, which is being used by copper companies in Arizona and other states and I will provide that in the official comments that I send in. But you haven't considered zero liquid discharge like mechanical evaporation. And so therefore, please reject the discharge permit to protect Michigan and to continue the motto of Michigan, which in Latin, I guess, says, if you seek a pleasant peninsula, look about you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, Bill. All right, we're going to go back to Jerry. Are you there, Jerry? Holly? It looks like you are still unmuted on our end. So if you're able to figure out your feedback situation, you can unmute yourself. Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
We're still getting something going on. I guess what I would suggest is either we can see how things go with your statement, or we can provide those other ways to make a comment, and you can make your statement either by Mind Viral or write your comments in. All comments have equal weight, just so everybody is aware. So feel free to start, and if it becomes too much, we may have to go with one of those other ways. Or we can provide the phone number. There's a phone call-in number that you can call in by phone, so that might be another option. So why don't you go ahead and try to start your comments.
Okay. I don't know why it's doing that.
All right, I think it's gonna be too much for us, Jerry. So we'll provide the phone call-in number, and so maybe we'll see if we can send that to you, and then you can try calling in by phone, or it should be on your registration email. If you register, you can call in by phone and make your statement that way. Sorry for any inconvenience.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is going to be Garth Stengard. So Garth, you are unmuted and can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Ryan. So my name is Garth Stengard. I am the manager of the Gogebic County Road Commission. I lived here in the Gogebic Range for most of my life. I went to grade school and high school in the Gogebic County, college at Gogebic County or Gogebic Community College and Michigan Tech, and my wife and I raised our 2 kids here. I am a professional engineer of 34 years. I had the opportunity to locally build a career that provided a good life for my family. My children, however, are not so lucky. Both of my children obtained a bachelor's degree at Central Michigan University and would like to reside in the Gogebic Range, but at this time, that simply is not possible with the lack of jobs. Copperwood Mine is an opportunity to change that. Michigan Eagle requires compliance with the strictest environmental standards. Working with Eagle throughout my career, I have the highest confidence that mining at Copperwood will be completed responsibly and environmentally safe. I support Copperwood Mine along with many of my colleagues, friends, families, and neighbors. Most of us in the Gogebic Range have fathers and grandfathers who worked in the mines. We are still a mining community at heart and would like to make that a reality again. Thank you for your time, and I hope you will reissue the NPDES permit for Copperwood Mine. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right, and I should mention what we'll do is there's a group of commenters that we have listed in the chat. We're going to take a 10-minute break after we get through this group, just so that you're aware of the timing. And we have about 15 people left on the list before we go to other raised hands. All right, so next up is going to be Ryan Stern. So Ryan, you are unmuted and can begin when you're ready. Are you there, Ryan? Yep, we can hear you.
Yep. Okay. Good evening. My name is Ryan Stern, a lifelong resident of the Upper Peninsula, and I'm currently the UP representative for the Michigan Building and Construction Trade Council. We are here tonight in full support of the reissuance of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit for the Copperwood Mine project. Our organization represents thousands of highly skilled union construction workers across the Upper Peninsula, and we believe that economic opportunity and environmental stewardship can and must go hand in hand. The NPDES permit is one of the most important environmental safeguards in this project. It establishes legally enforceable water quality standards, requires continuous monitoring and reporting, and holds the project accountable for complying with the state and federal environmental regulations. Supporting this permit means supporting a regulatory process that is designed to protect Michigan's natural resources while allowing responsible development to move forward. The Copperwood Mine represents an opportunity to create good-paying union construction jobs, strengthen local business, and generate long-term economic benefits for the Western Upper Peninsula. During the construction, the project will require hundreds of skilled tradespeople from a wide range of crafts, providing family-sustaining wages, apprenticeship opportunities, and careers that will help keep UP workers employed close to home. Beyond construction, domestic copper production is increasingly important to our nation's future. Copper is essential for electrical transmission, advanced manufacturing, renewable energy systems, transportation, infrastructure, and national security. Building these industries requires a reliable domestic supply of critical minerals. and Michigan has the opportunity to contribute to that effort while operating under some of the nation's strongest environmental regulations. The Michigan Building and Construction Trade Council supports projects that create careers for our members while meeting rigorous environmental standards. We believe the Copperwood Mine project can accomplish both. For these reasons, we respectfully urge the department to approve the permit and allow this important project to move forward under strict oversight and accountability required by Michigan and the federal law. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. All right. Next up is going to be Mike Smith. All right, Mike, you are unmuted and you can begin when you're ready.
Good evening. My name is Mike Smith, representing the Upper Peninsula Construction Council. I'm a resident of the Upper Peninsula. I represent the union construction industry, both labor and management across the Upper Peninsula. This would include hundreds of contractors and thousands of skilled craftsmen and women in the UP. We are in full support of the reissuance of a discharge permit to Copperwood Resources, Inc. We are confident that Highland and Eagle will follow the permit conditions to protect our environment. Our largest export currently is 18 to 25-year-olds. We need family-sustaining careers now more than ever to make our communities thrive again. This initiative will bring work back to the Western UP. The Copperwood project is committed to placing hundreds of acres of natural wetland habitats in conservation easements. The ecology of these conservation areas will remain protected long after the mine has stopped operating. The average wage of these jobs is $80,000 a year, an average wage of $38.26 an hour. This initiative will also bring more people to the area through the growth of other businesses. It will create a future for our children who want to stay and want their kids to also grow in this community as well. By supporting Copperwood, you're not funding a company, you're funding a future of a community. Thank you for providing this opportunity to comment on the reissuance of the discharge permit to Copperwood Resources, Inc., which we support. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right. So next up, looks like James Lynn is not on, so it would be Susan Bellinger. Susan, we will find you in the audience.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great.
All right, you can begin when you're ready.
Yeah, so I'm Sue Bellinger and I'm from the Marquette area. I'm a born and raised Youper. I've been an outdoor rec person my whole life. I was a wilderness guide and sea kayak instructor for over a decade on 3 of the Great Lakes. And I just know that people who come to the UP, in my experience, they're coming for this pristine wilderness environment, and they don't find it in too many places anymore. But they can find it here. And our tourism dollars really fuel our UP economy, and they're critical. My worry, you know, as I've been researching and listening to people and just reading a lot of the stuff online about the mine, you know, it's just incredible how this permit is for the discharge. I understand that, but this company, you know, somebody just said they're going to be responsibly developing, but they've already been fined for unpermitted drilling. Their activities over a period of time, they're not disclosing their non-compliance, things like that. I mean, they need permission from Eagle, and they're not being transparent. So I just don't trust this company. They're a foreign body coming into our land, taking our resources, and I just really have a strong feeling, because I'm so tied into the natural world and I live in it every day, my heart aches for these trees, these waterways, even the tiny creatures that we don't talk about because we don't see them. They're microscopic life forms. They matter. Water is life. Water has memory. All of these things combined really make my heart sick when I think of what might happen down the future to this area. I mean, it's already happened, the 60 acres of wetlands that were destroyed and a shaft put in. And they don't even have the funding to go forward. So I'm just asking for more careful, mindful thinking when, you know, your job is to do these permits, and we can't know what the trees are thinking, but everything's important. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Susan. All right. All right, looks like next up is, sorry, give me 1 second. I had to scroll down. All right, Gerald Warrenma. And then after Gerald, we're going to take our break. And it looks like Linnea Schoen is not on. So Gerald, you can, you are unmuted on our end. Are you able to unmute yourself? It looks like you might be on the phone. You can select, it should be prompted, but can select *9 to raise your hand. You should be prompted on your phone to unmute yourself. Actually, I'm going to see if you're also logged in. All right, I'll tell you what we'll do. Are you there, Gerald?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. You can begin when you're ready.
Oh, okay. I don't know what was going on. Sorry. So yeah, I'm Gerald Warma. I'm the Executive Director of Western Upper Peninsula Planning and Development Region, also known as WUPPER, which I am representing today. We are the regional planning and economic development agency serving the project area within an entire service area encompassing Baraga, Gogebic, Houghton, Iron, Keweenaw, and Ontonagon counties. Our formal membership includes those 6 county governments and 8 municipal and township governments within them. WUPPER is responsible for the preparation and maintenance of the Western Upper Peninsula Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, also known as the CEDS, which serves as the Regional Economic Development Plan and is updated every 5 years. This process is guided by a diverse committee throughout the region. The most recent update was completed this past April after more than a year of work. One of the top objectives of the CEDS is to support and seek opportunities for responsible extraction and value-added use of commodities originating within the region, in part through supporting development and operation of mining facilities and supporting infrastructure when clearly compliant with state, federal, and tribal regulations and respectful of environmental and community concerns. We believe the Copperwood project will fulfill those conditions. It appears that the NPDES permit application meets statutory and regulatory requirements. To date, Copperwood Resources has been operating responsibly under existing permits, and I see no justification to deny reissuance of this permit. Indeed, the modifications to the previous permit will enhance its stringency for environmental protection. We recognize that the natural environment assets on and in the vicinity of the site hold great value, and we believe that the NPDES permit will sufficiently protect the environmental interests of the state, while allowing progress to continue on an industrial project that would produce transformational economic benefit to the region. Thus, WUPPER strongly supports approval and reissuance of the subject permit. Finally, I'd like to add that I am a resident of bordering Ontonagon County and native of the Upper Peninsula, and a frequent visitor to the part of the Porcupine Mountain State Park that is near the project site. And I also personally support the permit reissuance for the same reasons. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, Joe. All right. All right, so we're at the point we're going to take a 10-minute break. So we will start back up at 9:05 Eastern time. So we'll turn the cameras off. Feel free to take a break. We'll also put the next batch of names in the chat in the meantime. Thanks for sticking with us, and hang in there if you haven't made your comment yet. think we have enough people, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you all for your patience during that break. It was very helpful. So the next set of names, we have Nancy Darling. We will unmute Nancy. And are you there, Nancy? All right, we cannot hear you. So you may need to adjust.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay.
All right,
Hi.
Yep, you can begin when you're
Okay.
ready.
Thank you. I live in Saginaw, Michigan, which is about 10 miles downstream from Midland, Michigan, the home of Dow Chemical. And over 20 years ago, actually, I'm not sure how long it occurred, but dioxin was released into the Tittabawassee River. That borders some of my property, and it's been years and years of being notified, don't raise chickens because you can't eat the eggs, don't grow plants. They've had to go and do remediation, remove the soil. The group that we're addressing is about the environment, and Dow was an American company. I know that regulations have changed and things have improved, but it happens. And once the damage happens, there's no going back. You look at future generations, and I'm currently in the Western UP right now visiting for the beauty of what there is here. You can't find this downstate. We need to be good stewards of what we have, Porcupine Mountains and the beauty of Lake Superior. I know that's not, Copperwood Mine is just going to affect potentially so many things. And if one mistake happens and there's contamination, there's no going back. It's, you can talk about bringing jobs and improving the economy, but it's short-lived. It will not be here forever. They're going to extract the precious things that we have in Michigan and the United States and send it who knows where. I just don't think the short-term gain is worth the potential for irreversible harm. You can't clean the water. You can't, all of the creatures that live in the area, in the water, in our beautiful Lake Superior, you just cannot, it's not worth the risk. So I am very much against it. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Nancy. All right, next up is Jennifer Pruim. Are you there, Jennifer?
Yeah.
All right, you can begin.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Prime, and I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I urge EGLE to deny the wastewater permit for Highland Copper. One of the reasons to deny this permit is to do your duty to uphold the statutes of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, which mandates that the state protect the habitat of endangered species. EGLE needs to make a decision based not on convenient confidence, but a full picture of the truth. Jay Roberts, an environmental scientist for Highland Copper, said that they intend to follow the recommendations of the environmental study that they took and are confident that there will be no impacts from the project. When the Michigan Advance asked for a copy of the study, it could not be found. Neither Highland Copper nor EGLE were able to provide this study. We all have seen time and time again confidence from companies that would like to make money, but it doesn't always equal the truth. Cigarettes, OxyContin, leaded gas and paint, deep offshore drilling, radium, hard rock mining are all examples of times where companies were, and sometimes still are, confident that there are no harmful effects, and yet in many cases, it has been devastating. We already talked about how there is the red-side dace population in this creek downstream, and both EGLE, which I know you want to go back on that and clarify that, but also Highland Copper say that it is not downstream. So that is misleading at the least. The truth is that there is a population about a half-mile downstream. The truth is that the red-side dace is sensitive to environmental changes and that its preferred habitat is shallow pools, and that the increased sediment, toxic additives, and corrosive deionized water creates significant risk to the red-side dace. And in fact, that study that did find that population at the lower side of the creek, they said that one of the critical factors for the presence of the red-side dace appears to be a continual flow of clear water. And it seems like there haven't really been any recent surveys done of red-side dace populations or even any studies of what exactly this kind of discharge would do to the red-side dace population. So I ask you to uphold this truth, even the questions that you don't have answered yet, and deny the permit. Furthermore, I ask that there be studies cited that show that this amount of wastewater will not affect the red-side dace population downstream, and I demand that feasible alternatives be considered, such as zero liquid discharge. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Allison Stancroft. All right, you there, Allison?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Yep.
Thank you so much for taking my comments. I just feel that this is a genie in the bottle situation. This area is far too precious to spoil. Quite simply put, we cannot trust corporations to do due diligence, period. We see it every day that companies go back on their promises, that they make mistakes, that they cut corners. And this is unspoiled territory. I live in Detroit. I love Detroit, but it is spoiled land. And we can't afford to just spoil this beautiful territory that is everyone's. And we have to realize how connected all life is, and that water is life. And in terms of the jobs that it will create, while on one hand that's great, we must realize that those are unfortunately short term, and companies they don't have our best interests in mind as community members. I have a lot of connection with Copperwood area through my whole lifetime, and it is a very special territory, and I am fully opposed to this project, and I implore you to reconsider this. Please don't let this happen. Don't let the genie out of the bottle here. We cannot put it back. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Jeff Plummer. So Jeff, looks like you are unmuted on our end. Are you there, Jeff?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say to begin, I would hope you would reject this discharge permit. There are a lot of reasons I think a lot of people have given. I had brought up earlier in a question the red side dace. That's an extreme issue that without a specific study showing the impact on this particular species, it would be hard to proceed with a discharge permit without knowing exactly if that species would be impacted, being an endangered species, that is. And I think I've been a UP resident for 24 years now, always a state of Michigan resident since I was born. And I think the overall consensus among Michiganders is this is a dangerous proposition in a very sensitive environment. And so any type of discharge into the stream needs to be studied much further. And I do believe, especially considering we're talking about copper here, and God knows we need more copper to build more data centers. And I think public sentiment on this form of mining, especially from a foreign company with not enough oversight and not enough critical environmental studies showing this would be safe. In fact, logic tells you this isn't safe, a downward slope towards Lake Superior. And I do believe we should err on the side of caution as citizens in the short-term benefits to jobs, which are going to be short-lived, and recreate that cycle of boom and bust as a mining economy does, is not worth risking the environment of our Lake Superior Basin and all the, not just the communities that share it, animals and humans alike, but states and countries. This is not a local issue. This is an issue that it's going to affect a lot of people for decades to come. And without the proper studies showing that, and the red side dace is just one example. I'm sure looking closer, there will be ecological impacts that will be seen as a potential, negative consequences for years. So I would just like to see this discharge permit denied pending much deeper further studies in an area that's incredibly sensitive ecologically. And mining, whether people support it or not, this is not the area to mine. This is the largest, cleanest freshwater body on Earth. And we should consider that. So I do appreciate your time, and consider, please, rejecting this discharge permit. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
I did want to quickly mention, I'm Carrie Plummer. I put myself down as a comment too, and
Oops, I'm sorry. I'll bring you back up, Carrie, accidentally. Jeff, are you there? Are you there? Do you want to make a comment, Carrie?
yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I guess it was confused here with our device, but yeah, Carrie Plummer. I'm a UP resident. I just want to urge you to please deny the discharge permit for Copperwood Mine. That is currently a speculative project of a foreign company. The mine plans to dump 500,000 gallons of wastewater every day that would end up flowing into the cleanest large body of fresh water in the world, Lake Superior. It would be tinkering with the sensitive ecosystems of this area, which includes the habitat of the endangered red-side dace. I believe it is Eagle's responsibility to ensure that these negative outcomes don't happen. And please do the right and sound thing by denying this permit. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Carrie.
Thank
All right, our next person up is Emily Baker. And we're getting close to the end of our list. I also want to mention that if you registered after around 11 a.m., you're probably not going to be on your list, so you're going to want to raise your hand. And then also, if you raise your hand, don't unraise it and raise it again because you lose your place in line. And we will go on to people who haven't registered at the end of our list here. We still have a few to go, but Emily Baker, go ahead. You can begin when you're ready. It looks like you're unmuted.
Thank you. Hi. Well, I want to say that I, I second the sentiments of the first dozen speakers and also the plumbers, Ms. Prime, Ms. Bellinger, or Ms. Darling, and Mr. Edgewater, and Mr. Dam, and all those others who spoke in opposition. And Mr. Wilbert's warning is definitely worth heeding. Along with the concerns about the discharge, I also want to voice the concerns about the wastewater that would be stored in the 323-acre tailing basin, with a dam barring the way between that and Lake Superior, which is downslope from it. Given how many dams had overflowed and ruptured during some recent storms, that's practically an accident waiting to happen. So this is definitely something to keep in mind. And if there's anything to the rumors that there might be a data center being built over there, well, that has its own water use and pollution problems that need some careful addressing too. And I think all told, we can hardly trust Highland Copper to care for the safety or natural health of its workers and ecosystems alike. And I heard the horror stories declaring that the U.S. is in such a pinch for refined copper that the Treasury is not minting any new pennies, and that Michigan's economy and job prospects are so much in the red that we can't afford to turn away any investors. However, the U.S. has plenty of mined copper, and furthermore, there's no guarantee that Highland will sell much of the copper that it refines back to the U.S. And if we really need all that metal, all that much, we can stand to expand our e-waste reclamation, or even try extracting metals from plants or microbes. There are different studies and companies already doing this, the University of Florida and Endolith. And what Michigan really needs more than new export centers like mining or data centers is to nurture our locally oriented economies, providing rural communities with broadband, healthcare, infrastructure, vocational training, and apprenticeships for all sorts of jobs, not just manufacturing and extraction. And we need to revitalize small towns and plan seriously for living in a post-manufacturing economy. And I just want to add furthermore that consent can always be withdrawn, even if you gave it before. And so if you must accept, demand stringent guarantees of safety.
You're out of time,
treatment.
Emily. Are you about done with your comments?
Yeah, I guess that's all I have to close with. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thanks for your comments. All right. Next on the list, we have Catherine Andrews. So Catherine, you are unmuted on our end.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name's Catherine Andrews. I've lived in Baraga County for over 50 years. My family and I, including my grandchildren, learned to ski at the Porkies, and we've also enjoyed snowshoeing, hiking, and attending the Porcupine Mountain Music Festival. The Porkies are about as pure Michigan as it gets. Today, I respectfully request that the NPDES Permit MI 00588969 be denied. You are hearing many serious and legitimate concerns regarding the negative impacts of Highland Copper on the proposed Copperwood site and the potential destructive impacts on the surrounding area if this project is allowed to advance. It's my understanding that no complete water treatment plan has been submitted to you. How can a national pollutant discharge elimination system permit be granted if there is no plan? How is it possible that 60 acres of forested wetland has been destroyed and only 15 acres of poorly engineered wetland has replaced it? Forested wetland mitigation must occur at a 2-to-1 ratio, which would require at least 120 acres of engineered wetland replacement. That ratio advances to 5-to-1 for rare or imperiled wetland types. This permit allows for the discharge of up to 500,000 gallons per day of contaminated wastewater, toxic metals, stormwater, and demineralized reverse osmosis fluids into Namibenag Creek, which has negligible baseline flow. Even if Copperwood adheres to all its permit requirements, there will still be an additional contamination on the land and in the air and waters of this beloved ecosystem. I refer you to Bill Dam's wastewater permit analysis for a complete overview and recommendation to implement a zero liquid discharge system to replace the NPDES permit. In closing, I'd like to remind you that Michigan's official threatened and endangered list includes over 407 vulnerable animals, plants, and insects. My closing thought is, how much are we willing to destroy before it becomes too much? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Jay Roberts. Are you there, Jay?
Good evening. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. My name is Jay Roberts. I was born and raised in the UP and I'm a current resident. I'm an environmental scientist for the Copperwood Project with more than 20 years of experience in ecology and natural resources management. And I want to first thank everyone for their interest in this topic, and I hope to clarify a few potential misconceptions. I want to start by making it clear that protecting the environment is a top priority for Highland Copper. Many of us working on this project live in the UP, enjoy the outdoors, hunt and fish and recreate, and are raising our kids here. So we cherish our natural resources and understand how important it is to protect them. At the Copperwood site, we are actively monitoring a wide range of environmental and ecological conditions, including surface water, hydrology, and quality. We're doing this in both the unimpacted natural areas on site as well as the mitigation streams and wetlands. The purpose of all this monitoring work, which will be documented in publicly available reports throughout the construction, operation, and closure of the mine, is to identify any potential impacts on biodiversity, including protected species like the red-side dace. The fish aquatic habitat and red-side dace studies were completed in 2010, and the conclusions from those and several other studies were incorporated into the mining permit application and are being used to guide our monitoring efforts throughout the life of this project and its closure. Following the recommendations from those studies, the treated water discharge location will be in the upper reaches of the West Branch tributary to Namibenag Creek. And the discharge location is more than a mile upstream from its confluence with the main branch of Namibenag Creek. The lower reaches of the main branch are where the red-side dace are present, and most of the red-side dace locations are located upstream from the confluence and thus will not be in contact with any treated wastewater. And I know there have also been questions about how much wastewater the Copperwood project will generate. As noted in the permit and mentioned several times, the treatment plant may release up to 500,000 gallons per day, but we anticipate it will be routinely less than that. While this may sound like a very large amount, it's actually a small proportion of the total capacity of that creek. However, as the West Branch tributary is an intermittently flowing stream tied largely to rainfall and snow melt, the treated water will be a dominant or full portion of that creek's flow during dry periods. I encourage everyone here to visit the project website at copperwoodproject.com to learn more about our commitment to the environment and some of the work we've already put into the site, which includes newly constructed mitigation wetlands and streams that are rapidly developing into high-quality wildlife habitat. As we observe abundant wildlife making their homes in the mitigation areas, it underscores the success of that work and our commitment to preserving biodiversity. So I'll finish by mentioning that everything I've shared today is available to the public and will continue to be documented in regular reporting throughout the life of the project. So thanks to Eagle for the opportunity for everyone to speak out tonight and for the work that you all do in maintaining the standards that protect our environment and the natural resources we love so much here in the UP. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Sorry, we can hear you. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jackie Christensen, White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Greetings. I'm a lifelong Minnesotan and I've spent a lifetime going to the Porkies. I go for the wilderness, the solitude, the wildlife, to be among the old growth hemlocks and marvel at the water as it moves through the watershed to Lake Superior. Deny the NPDES permit, conduct a new survey, and consider alternatives like zero liquid discharge. I wonder about the future of the endangered red-side dace and the other 5 species of fish you allow, if you allow Copperwood to dump their contaminated waste into Namabinog Creek. Please stop doing business with a bad actor. They stated that the stream receiving water discharge was specifically selected as it has no red-side dace or other aquatic species populations, end of quote. We know that 6 species of fish live there. Eagle, you are complicit with bad actors if you approve this NPDES permit to Copperwood. Imagine this, trying to survive with 830 milligrams of total dissolved solids per liter of wastewater, 2 to 3 times higher than the current TDS. Eagle insists that the TDS be lowered to match Namabinog Creek. Imagine this, trying to survive 4 highly toxic water treatment additives that are difficult to pronounce, N-dodecyl mercaptan, methyl isopropyl carbonyl, sodium isobutyl xanthanate, and sodium hydrosulfide. There is to date no released plan for filtering toxins. It's pretty simple, Eagle, no detoxification plan, no permit. Imagine this, trying to survive the cumulative impacts from the Eagle Mine exhaust permit destruction of 60 acres of wetlands, destructing streams, and this NPDES permit. Eagle, your decision to permit pollution is leading us to a trophic cascade. Enough. The hydrology of Namabinog Creek is as nature intended and in balance with the needs of the flora and fauna that live there. If you change the hydrology and chemical composition, you impact life. Deny the NPDES permit. Protect the Porkies. Pure Michigan, pure water. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, Jackie. All right, next up, and this is our last person of registrants that we have on our list, is Charlotte Loonsfoot. Are you there, Charlotte?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Bonjour, Wabnamikizikwe, Jakdodam, Sibent, Wikvidan, Dunjaba. I am a Keweenaw tribal member in Berger County, and I'm a water protector. And I have made a commitment to protect this water with my life. Lake Superior is surrounded by Anishinaabe people, Ojibwe people, and this area is very sacred, and the rivers and the creeks are also. I don't know if you guys are knowledgeable about our treaties, but you should very much look into those treaties and be informed that you are breaking them. And this other guy was talking about how perfect everything is and how everything is good. Nothing is perfect. None of their surveys or whatever. You can only be perfect if you're the creator, God. And in the future, the water value is going to be 10 times more valuable than this mine. And it's a short-term thing, right? And it's going to pollute forever like it has in the 1800s when the mining was up in Houghton, Hancock. They're still polluting today. And they're messing with our fish. I was there when Rio Tinto went into Eagle Rock, and we set up a treaty camp and blocked it for 5.5 weeks. There's no way you can possibly let this happen. And when Governor Granholm was in charge, she changed the mining law and gave the highest amount of toxins allowed in the lake, in the waters, in land. And I think that should be changed. I say no new mining in the UP. No more. We're done. Miigwech, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right, so that concludes everyone we had on our list of people who indicated they want to make a comment during registration. Again, if you registered after about 11 o'clock this morning, you were not on that list, so you're going to need to raise your hands. So we will go to the raise hands now. Everyone who has not made a comment can make a comment. It's one comment per person. So the only way we'll be able to call on you if you've already commented is if you have somebody else on the line who has not made a comment yet, and we can allow them to make their comments. Also, if your hand is raised, don't unraise it because it'll drop your hand to the bottom of the queue. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start taking raise. Oh, and if there's anybody on the phone who would like to make a comment, you can select *9 or *9 on your phone, and that will raise your hand in Zoom. So just a reminder if we still have any phone-in callers who would like to make a comment. All right, so our first raised hand, Nicole Kiwe-Biber. We are going to unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I signed up the first day, so I'm not quite sure what happened. But anyways, I am Nicole. I am a tribal citizen as a Little Traverse Bay Bando Dawa. I also work for Clean Water Action in Michigan. So definitely thinking you would be best suited to denying this permit. Feels like another pretty farcical, nominally environmentally protective permit process, favors industry clearly, where we're permitting pollution, not really protecting shared waters. It always seems to be just a little more poison is the standard. And that's, you know, purposeful over decades of like what Charlotte was just saying of, you know, raising more and more how much poison's allowed to go in. So all the degradations detailed by the public are somehow okay. And Jay, I think his name was, on the Copperwood dole there. Apparently we're supposed to be thrilled that he's going to document the degradations. So I want to talk about the stream a bit as the primary party in immediate danger. I'd say the primary victim of yet another proposed sacrifice for profit of private interests. Namebenuk, that name, you know, is teaching in itself. Name is word for sturgeon, you know, obviously an ancient being that carries teachings. Namebin, suckerfish. And even the name, that sound means making a presence known. So just to say culturally, you know, to have our living language requires links to the living earth. And when we think about name and namebin and the efforts to have them come back, that stewardship, you know, those efforts aimed at that, but those resurgence, those are highly impactful, a cascade of, you know, benefits to the ecosystem, but also to human quality of life, meaningful occupation. So, you know, another fish mentioned many times, red-side dace, much smaller, also deeply significant. Actually has a large mouth, so maybe that's part of the naming of the stream. You know, it has a foundational role in nutrient kind of interrelationships. So, you know, back to that stream herself, the proposed plans in the wastewater permit essentially turn the Mebenek from a carrier of life to a ditch for industrial effluent. Gipsy Creek, you know, is going to be effluent dominant. 780,000 pounds of dissolved solids a year. How can that be okay? Eagle, this impact alone should be enough for a denial of the permit. It's worth mentioning there's a host of unknowns regarding the full composition of contaminants per the unavoidable conjecture associated with hypotheticals. What is reported is undeniably detrimental. Red-side dace indicates a healthy waterway, a sensitive species. That indicates a victory, right? From degradation to revitalization should be our trajectory. We should not continue wasting our water. There's apparently no set detoxification plan for chemicals toxic to aquatic life, though AMIC, beavers mentioned. I just want to say that's not their job, but our job is to protect the water, and it's actually what you're being paid for. But I'm a water protector, and we're not going to stop.
All right. Thanks for your comment, Nicole. All right, next up is Stephen Holt. All right, looks like you're unmuted on our end, Stephen. Are you there?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Okay, I'm a wildlife and environmental issues photographer who's been internationally published for about 30 years. I now live in Ironwood, and I deeply oppose this permit. I have visited the largest Superfund acid mine site, and which is Iron Mountain in near Redding, California, and have photographed the multi-hued wastewater coming out of that. And I've visited mine sites in many different states, and this really should not happen here. The wastewater will be drowning out the amount of water that is normally in the creek, and and then you've got a something the size of they're going to be making a pile of waste soil or waste rock that will be the size of the Statue of Liberty. And if there's a catastrophic, this wastewater permit will allow them to go ahead if you give it to them. And if you end up having a massive rain event that causes a failure in the tailings pile, then the amount of solids coming down from the permit will be dwarfed by a mountain that is projected to actually make it all the way into Lake Superior. And you get 10 years of mining profits, mostly going to Canada. And am I done?
No, that's the 1 minute warning.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. In any case, the knocked me off my game for a moment. The water that goes into and the waste that goes into Lake Superior, it stays there for the time for water to cycle out of the lake is in the 150-year range, or longer, almost 200 years. So any poison that enters Lake Superior is going to be there for generations. And it's just a terrible place for a mine. Within a mile of Lake Superior, it's the closest mine tailing pile to Lake Superior. And this permit really should not be permitted.
All right, your time's up, Stephen. Thanks for your comment. All right, Sheila Polkowski.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hello. All right. My name is Sheila Polkowski. I am a water protector, and I am speaking today for Mother Lake Superior. I want to know how come nobody's talking about PFAS. This permit needs to be denied because you are not prepared to look for or monitor PFAS in the Copperwood Mine wastewater. PFAS is over 14,000 forever chemicals. These chemicals never go away, and they contaminate the groundwater. These chemicals cause cancer and many health problems. The mining industry has used PFAS for decades. It is used in the industrial mining processes. These include ore floating, or leaching in copper mines, also used in suppressing agents and wetting. PFAS can also be found around the world at mine sites due to the use of cleaners for metal surfaces, foaming agents in drilling fluids, paints and coatings, and the use of fluoropolymer pipes, cables, hoses, and conveyor belts. It is extremely difficult to remove PFAS from wastewater. These potential sources of PFAS in the environment need management. We cannot let PFAS go into our waters and contaminate our fish. This will contaminate the Lake Superior fishing industry. You will contaminate the fish with PFAS. Do you realize what could happen? Please deny this permit. Please test their water for PFAS because it's going to be in there and we can't let this happen. 500,000 gallons a day of wastewater with PFAS going down the creek, which does go into Lake Superior. We cannot let this happen. Your mission statement says to protect Michigan's environment and public health by managing the water. So that means you can't let this happen. Please deny the permit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Michael Foley. All right, are you there, Michael?
I am. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Yep, no problem. You can begin.
Good evening. So my name is Mike Foley. I was raised in Gogebic County in Ironwood Township in the western UP, where the project is located, and I'm a licensed civil engineer in the state of Michigan. And I'm also the site manager on the Copperwood project. Those of us who have lived in the area for a long time know how that mining is in our roots. The western UP has a long history of iron and copper mining since the 1800s. Most residents of the western UP have ties to the mining industry. We also know how the western UP is struggling since the closure of the White Pine Mine in 1994. Additional closures in the forest products and healthcare industries, as well as the closure of the Ojibwe Correctional Facility, have significantly reduced the number of jobs and population in our area. The Copperwood project is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create hundreds of local jobs and economic development, all while respecting the environment and tourism of this area. Copperwood is critical to the future of the western UP. Renewing the NPDES permit is the next step in making sure that we can bring the project to life, and with it bring the investments and jobs to our community that we so desperately need. The renewal is a promise that Copperwood is following Michigan's stringent mining regulations, which is some of the most strictest in the nation, with rigorous oversight by Michigan Eagle. And for the people who actually live here and want to see the project succeed, Copperwood has bipartisan support from local, state, and federal levels. This also includes 22 units of UP governments from the western UP, ranging from townships to county boards, that have issued resolutions of support, and as well as 10 technical institutions and dozens of community leaders. Thank you for letting me speak today. I appreciate the effort from Eagle to ensure every project respects our environment the way it should. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. All right, next up is Mary Ann Griffith. So Mary Ann, you are unmuted. Are you there?
Yes, I signed up to comment a week ago, but so I don't know what happened here. But my name is Mary Ann Griffith, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment. I'm a downstate Michigander who loves the UP. The ecosystem being discussed is pristine and fragile, and rookie Highland copper should not be entrusted with its well-being for all the reasons we've heard tonight. This whole project has been highly opposed over and over, and it just keeps coming back. And I encourage Eagle to deny this permit. Don't try to amend it, just deny it. So much of our state has been dug up and polluted. Some has recovered and it's still beautiful, but it's not the same. So we must preserve what's left. So to those folks who want the jobs and development, come live downstate with us. If you don't mind the loss of nature, we've got lots of engineering and construction jobs for your kids. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Mary Ann. All right, next up is Marissa Van Zyl.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Bonjour, Ikwe Dejnakas, Minwa, Oti, Knekit, Dejnakas, Mikisi Dodams, Kagnin Dunchaba. My name is Marissa Van Zyl, and I am a resident of Gogebic County. I live in Waters Meet. So I'm not too far from this, what we're talking about. I'm also a member of the Secaucus Chippewa tribe in northern Wisconsin. And all three of my children are Lac Vieux Desert tribal members. And this is a place that we all consider our home. And I just want to start off by saying that I don't support this permit or Copperwood. I support water, Lake Superior, and good water quality standards and life. I'm concerned for the survival of life in the area, each and every habitat. We should never have to sacrifice water quality or life for profit. I'm demanding that this permit be denied to Highland Copper. And also I would like you to consider conducting a new survey of the endangered red-side dace and also look into feasible alternatives. And I want to say miigwech to Allison and Susan for putting that out there that yes, water is life. Miigwech.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Marissa. All right, next raised hand is Kathleen Heidemann. And Kathleen, I had you, looks like you already made a comment. So we wouldn't be able to take another comment unless you have somebody else on the line who hasn't made a comment. So we'll unmute you and see if there's somebody else. All right, you are unmuted on our end. Is there someone else there, Kathleen?
Just want to thank you for making sure the mine got a equal say tonight.
We can't take another comment, but thank you. All right, next up is Stephen Garsk. All right, Stephen, you are unmuted on our end.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, you're good.
My name is Steve Garsky, and I'm a longtime resident of Gogebic County, Michigan, and a UPEC board member. And this is a terrible place for a mine, as many people have pointed out. If constructed, it would be across the road from the park and less than a mile from Lake Superior. It would be a few hundred feet from Presque Isle River, a designated wild and scenic river. The tailings facility would be just west of the park and just north of the North Country National Scenic Trail, a unit of the National Park Service. By the time it's done, this mine will end up destroying over 60 acres of wetland and over 3 miles of streams, along with hundreds of acres of forest. Ecosystems are complicated. Actions that change them often have unanticipated consequences, and impacts to lower parts of a stream can have negative impacts upstream as well. For example, the adults of some aquatic insects, including certain mayflies and stoneflies, have a strong tendency to migrate upstream to lay their eggs. This replenishes their upstream populations and provides food for predators. These insects may also fly to nearby streams to reproduce. That means that damage to downstream populations will negatively impact the stream's entire food chain, even upstream. Nabinun Creek and its west branch tributary need to be resurveyed for the red-side dace. The only survey for this fish was done in late summer 2009, 17 years ago. This is the data used in the 2010 Fishbeck et al. Reports. One of them, the Baseline Fisheries, Macroinvertebrates, and Physical Habitat Report, notes that the lower Nabinun Creek population is the northernmost known population of the state endangered fish in the world. Okay, the rest of my comments had originally to do with the outstanding state resource waters, which I already pasted in as a question, but I just want to say that I'm very concerned with the statement in the biologist report that the effluent from the mine will result in the stream being effluent dominated. This is clearly going to have a major negative impacts on the stream, structurally and chemically. As for the supposed economic benefits, this mine is projected by the company even to last only 10 to 14 years. Then the company will be gone and the money they make will be gone and we'll be left with a mess. I'll be submitting more comments in writing before the 17th, but please deny this permit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right, we've got one more raised hand, Brittany Martin. If anybody else is out there who has not made a comment yet and would like to, feel free to raise your hand as well. And if you're on the phone, you can select *9, which will raise your hand, and we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. So Brittany, it looks like you are unmuted on our end. I should be able to unmute yourself with the microphone icon and then can make your statement.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Brittany Martin. I'm a resident of Ironwood, raising my 4 kids here, and I want to make sure this water stays clean for all of them and for any kids that they may have. The copper under the Porkies is high quality and valuable. Like the red side dace, once it's gone, it's gone. We have a duty to protect it from the low benefit, high cost extraction plan offered by Highland Copper. If we want jobs building a mine, why not be more selective with the one and only opportunity to harvest that copper and make sure that it's done properly in a way that won't ruin our watershed? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, so at this point, those are the names that are on my list and the raised hands of people who wanted to make a comment. We'll hang out here for a couple more seconds. Again, if you have not made a comment yet tonight and would like to, you can select your raised hand icon at the bottom of your screen or *9 on your phone. Just so you're aware, if we don't have any more comments, what we'll do is we'll go on to the other ways to make a comment. Again, in case you didn't want to make a comment today, but still wanted to provide comments. Okay, it looks like we have a raised hand phone number, last 4 digits of 2274. We are going to unmute you, and then you should be able to prompted to unmute yourself on your receiver, and then can make your comment. And so it looks like you are unmuted on our end, caller, last 4 digits, 2274. All right, we'll give a couple more seconds. All right. All right, if you're, we'll come back to you, caller, or you can keep trying to unmute your receiver, but you're unmuted on our end. And what I'll actually do is remove permission for you to talk, and then I'll re-unmute you and see if that helps. All right, you should have been prompted. All right, still not, doesn't appear to be working. Caller, we'll provide those other ways to make a comment in case you're having issues with your phone and are not able to make a comment. All right, next, we do have another raised hand. Matthew Bork. We are going to unmute you. Are you there, Matthew?
I am. You can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I know this is not the question and answer time. I just, as far as water quality is concerned and the responsibility to protect water quality, my one thing I suppose I would put into our EGLE's thought processes, would you even drink the wastewater that's coming out? Upon the numerous other problems with extracting the copper and the release of the water into the watershed, and using, the reverse osmosis system, which in order to make those also ironically has a byproduct of dioxin, which so even through their filtration system, they'll be making more toxins that they will again have to put into other areas. So I would appreciate that EGLE would step forward in increasing our protections, even if that means to change the laws for the better. You are educated to do these things, and just because you may have some regulatory stipulations that say that you have to allow certain things, it's actually we're relying and we're paying you more of your salary than as the people of Michigan than these companies are for the middleness of the permit. So I would appreciate, or I'm sure all of the people would appreciate, if you would start protecting the waters of Michigan and stop letting people and companies dump water that you would not drink yourself. Thank you.
Yep, thanks for your comment, Matthew. All right. Again, if you haven't made a comment yet and would like to, you can click the raise hand icon. Just for good measure, we're going to go back to Jerry Hawley, who was trying to make a comment before, and see if she was able to get things worked out. Looks like she may be up there. You are. Are you there, Jerry?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. No echo.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I would. I don't have much to say because, I mean, everybody has basically said so much. I just want to be on record to say that I am totally opposed to the Copperwood Mine and Highland Copper. I've been basically pretty much a lifelong resident of Ontonagon, and I grew up here, raised my family here, skied the Porkies, hiked the Porkies. We have a place on Lake Superior, and my husband's great-grandfather was actually instrumental in getting the Porkies designated as a state park, even though he was a logger and a businessman. He saw how important it was to preserve something so special, and that this mine site is so close to Lake Superior. It's so close to the Porkies. They've already had multiple issues with the laws and fines, and it seems to me like they're just not, our resources are not in their best interests. All their interests are in collecting the copper and bringing it to Canada. There was about 10 years ago or so, there was a massive flood at Saxon Harbor, and they called it a 100-year flood. Well, that could easily happen again, and if it did, those tailings would go directly into Lake Superior. They diverted 2 rivers to get this tailings dam built, and they're in 90-degree angles. So the river is now diverted into 90-degree angles. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen a river flow naturally in 90-degree angles. So one big flood and that thing's going to be wiped out. So I just hope that Eagle and people, you listen to the people that live here, you listen to 11 years of jobs is not worth a lifetime of worrying about the pollution that could, will be straddled with forever. So I'm totally against it, and I just wanted that to be on record. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, got another raised hand, Margot Cooper. We are going to unmute you, and you can make your comment.
Hello. I just wanted to say, after listening to this hearing for quite a few hours, I support the water protectors. I don't think there is a single person that we have heard from this evening that did not have some sort of economic stake or was not financially supported by this mine that had any actual interest in it. And I think that in of itself speaks for itself. So thank you everybody for your time. That's all I had to say.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right. Is there anyone else out there who has not made a comment yet who would like to make a comment? If we don't have anybody else, we'll move on to the next part of the hearing, which will provide those other ways to make a comment. And then we'll also provide Renee's contact information in case you have additional questions or we weren't able to get to your question. So I'm still not seeing any raised hands. So we are going to go ahead and close out of the hearing, and we'll do that by reading the closing statement. And so I'll be doing that here. All right, as a reminder, and I shall move on to my next slide. As a reminder, the public comment period for accepting written comments is open until July 17th, 2026. The department will consider all comments received. Written comments may be submitted online in our MyEnviro database. A link is being provided in the chat directly to the comment submittal form. Comments may also be submitted to Renee Pionk at the following address: at Water Resources Division, Eagle, P.O. Box 30458, Lansing, Michigan 48909-7958. Thank you for your comments and your cooperation. We appreciate your interest and that you took the time to be here today. The public hearing is now closed. Thank you again. So we're putting the information in the chat again, and it's also on your screen. The MyEnviro link, which we also provided some information on how to add that. And then you can you can also send it in writing, any comments, to Renee at Water Resources Division, Eagle, Post Office Box 30458, Lansing, Michigan 48909-7958. And the comment period will be open until July 17th. All right, and then as promised, here's Renee's contact information, who can be reached at 517-285-7385. That's 517-285-7385. Or by email at pionkr@michigan.gov. That's pionkr@michigan.gov. And we're putting that in the chat as well, in case we weren't able to get to your questions or you have additional questions and follow-up. All right, and before we wrap, Andrea, do you have any closing comments for us tonight?
I just want to be expressing my gratitude to all the people that attended this public hearing. We truly appreciate your comments and your feedback and your perspective. So I want to be emphasized, and it was mentioned many times, but our closing day is like July 17th. You still have some time to be able to provide some additional comments to us. So please, take that opportunity to do it. So thanks again, and have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. Last thing I'll say is just another thank you to all of our panelists, all of you for being part of this, and a reminder that this hearing was recorded and it will be posted on Eagle's YouTube channel the next day or two. So with that, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks, everyone.